genuinely
Tyler just said feet used to be the opposite of hands. What are they now?
Well, now it's like, like if you were to see a picture of some feet in like a work environment, it's not like looking at a picture
What
of hands.
context do you
Now
see just a
it's
picture of bare
almost-
feet? Aside
I
from
don't
on
know.
Feet Finder, a place where I've never been.
I'm pretty sure that's just an ad that like meme pages like get a lot. But like, I don't know, like feet are almost as NSFW, which is where this started, as like actual private parts. They're almost a private part now.
Are
They've
they
almost
a
got
private
that
part? They're almost a
because of feet
private. I love
people.
your language. They're almost a private part. Who the
They
fuck
are
are
now.
you?
You will, at this point in time, like
That's why we've
walking
never
around
seen
with
the
your
dwarves'
hogs
feet,
out.
although we have. Are they barefoot in the med gowns? I think they are.
I don't know, but the fucking yeah.
Or are their feet just stumps? Are their feet just like Patrick Star?
Nubs.
Or like they're like
But yeah,
ankles
no.
going over the toes, so you don't have to show them.
Feet people went so hog wild that at this point, getting your feet out is almost like getting your tits out.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm so unhappy that is like that feet is like the biggest fetish is so annoying.
it's like the most open one as
It's
well.
not something cool like glasses or
like an adult woman fetish
or thighs or something. I think thighs probably close behind, and I can respect that. This is not okay. Sometimes I can't figure out what sort of what's appropriate or not based on our track record, right? Because children probably shouldn't watch our content.
We have potty mouths.
That's
my mum would not have let me watch us when I was younger. I was not allowed to watch stuff with swears in until I found Skyder's Minecraft. And then at that point, I just kept watching him, and eventually, Mum got used to it.
What do you remember?
Same
like
with the Oxcast, actually.
Like the first episode, because like Stampy doesn't swear.
Yeah, that.
But
Stampy
his first
was,
episode, he does.
Ooh, I think I remember discovering that, but obviously, I watched Stampy all the time growing up, and then eventually, yeah, I went on to watch funny content like Skyler's Minecraft, the Oxcast. This is old Skyler's Minecraft, not the one that's modern day, where I'm not sure he's in prison, but I think he's supposed to be.
I don't think he's in prison.
A lot of shit went down with Skyler's Minecraft, and I don't quite care enough to.
There's this like video of Brian Blessed like swearing like a lot. You've seen that? He's with Stephen Fry. He, like in a theatre. Yeah. I've shown it to you, and he's like, "Fucking arsehole, stick that back, he says all this kind of stuff. I tried to like find it. I wanted to find like the words. I wanted to do it myself. To prove that we're not safe for work, because we're not. Although we're not in that way. It's not that kind of NSFW kind of means like
I can pull up my feet, and we definitely won't be safe for work. I
could shove my guns, and then we definitely wouldn't be safe for work.
Yeah.
And I don't mean weapons. I mean whatever. No, but I was trying to find it, and I went onto his website. I went to his website. It does have the clip on it. It's called Floating in Dreams. It's asking for my consent to use your personal data. It's not like the option isn't I agree. The option is consent.
It's a classy website, Harry.
I just hate. I just hate.
Yeah.
Anyway, that completely derailed how I was intending to start this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Although I never actually figured out what I was going to say to open this.
Do what you're going to do, and then I'll dub over it.
What do you mean you're going to dub over it?
I'll dub over it. So you just move your mouth like you're saying stuff.
No,
and then do whatever you're going to do. And then I'll dub over it. What's going on, guys? It's Harry here. Back at it again with the Barrel Vision podcast.
You're a bit...
Shove that up your ass.
No, it was... What's up, everybody? This is the Eggman here, and today we're going to be talking about why RuneScape is so awesome. That's a real video he made. Today we're going to be talking about why quantum TV can suck my balls.
Yeah.
That was a while ago now, and I think that is the reason why he's kind of falling off. I think it's because he got this massive W, everyone had his back, and now he's got too much of an ego. I genuinely think that's what's happened. Yeah, I think that is exactly.
He did take an L during that, which I forgot about.
Yeah, a massive L, but everyone had his back still, and I think that's more empowering than just YouTube, just like, you know, just treating him properly. It's like more like going against the grain and winning, because
he became like a martyr.
Yeah, he became like a martyr, but also got resurrected. It's like, you know, much like not much like Deep Rock. What the fuck am I talking about?
It's gonna be resurrected, trust. Or was it ever dead?
Because that's such an awkward point that I still can't really come to a decision on, because it's like it just comes down to the question of what you actually mean by dead. Like, I think the only way you could argue is that it's been dead by its own standards. But even then, I can't even say I actually agree with that. I tell you what is actually dying is actually Halo Infinite. They've stopped doing seasons now. And they're opting instead for
doing updates.
Yeah, they're doing updates. So what they're doing is instead of doing like a full season pass as well, or a battle pass, it's like they do these operations, which is like a 20 tier one. And they're supposed to rotate every 4 to 6 weeks, and those are the markers that they're going to use to do updates as well. I don't think it'll be every time, but they'll sort of punctuate things. And they also very explicitly said, this was in a live stream yesterday, they very explicitly said that they're building up teams they're increasing like their size of the company because they're working on multiple games. So they're sort of like creating a team to work on Infinite until it sort of, you know, needs to go away. While I think they are moving on to something else, and I think it's such an interesting discussion, because it's like, oh look, they failed again. They can't keep Infinite afloat. It's just like, yeah, I think there's so much shit that you could fling at 343's way that is really just objectively true. But the truth is, the only way they're going to get like replaced is if Microsoft actually gives a shit, and they don't. So frankly, I thought Halo Infinite's campaign was great, and then moving into a new game probably means they're actually going to do another campaign. So I don't care. I want them to move on. To be honest, I think they're wasting time with Infinite at the moment, and if they want to make it a smaller team, they're just to keep it going. However, what they have done is added the Mjolnir Mark IV armor core, which is the best fucking looking piece of armor I think that's ever been in anything, frankly. And everyone was really, this was a big deal, such a big deal, in fact, that I'm going to show everyone what this is. How
did you earn it?
It's free. It's an armor core, and it's going to have like a lot of content added throughout the next what would have been season 6. It's sort of I mean, okay, what's the best picture? I don't know what the best picture is for these guys. Maybe this. Maybe this is the best picture for it. Look at that guy. That's a fella. That's a Halo fella. And then it looks pretty. I hope this works. If it comes up, the Infinite version. It looks pretty great. Oh no, they don't. They don't have it. Sort of like the original like Halo Wars design that people absolutely adore, because it's probably the best. Probably better than Halo.
So this
Infinite
is
Chief.
like following up.
That's
the Chief one.
The in-game one. And it looks like that, like base. And they sort of said to themselves, like, this is probably the best like base core we've ever made. And it's like, yeah, probably. But yeah, I think they're going to be moving on soon. And it's actually kind of like, you know, the only difference there to me then between them and Ghost Ship is the fact that they haven't announced what the next game is. Aside from that, it could be considered a fairly similar situation, although I don't think it is. I personally think Ghost Ship see what they're doing with Deep Rock as just as big as before, only less frequent. I hope that's what it is. I think that's what it is. And I think there's like a weird amount of doubt still surrounding future updates. I think the only amount of doubt that you could throw at Deep Rock is like how long things are going to take. But you know, I remember seeing a veteran who was kind of like dropping off, and because they were kind of misinformed. They kind of thought that season 5 was basically going to be nothing. You know, those kind of notions that are being thrown around, which are absolute, what would you say?
Poppycock.
Poppycock, exactly. It's absolute poppycock, because I don't. I think I am. Yeah, I'm 100% confident. I can say with 100% surety that there will be either a mission type or a biome in season 5, and frankly, because mainly because I tuned into the dev stream on Thursday, and they just got asked about it, and Aaron just said he said right now we're working on a mission type for season 5. He still actually said like it's not 100%, which I think is really weird, but it was still just reiterated this, like, you know, they first brought it up a couple months ago during streams like in October, and it's being reiterated once again. It's just going to happen, and frankly, like I still think unless what Johan said in like the very first Q&A after Roll Call got announced is kind of like not particularly accurate, I think season 5 is going to be way bigger than Ghost Ship think it would have been, or we're expecting it to be when they announced Roll Call.
Well,
I think
just
because it is just going to be better than season 4 and 3, and it's going to be after such a long wait. It's simply going to have an impact. There's no avoiding
I think that it's important to re-clarify what they said. Like when I asked
if
about
we actually
season 5,
know what they said.
Yeah, word for word, probably not. But I don't know when. I think it was the stream when they announced Roll Call. I think when they were asked for season 5, or it might be the dev stream soon after. But they clarified that season 5, like to not get your hopes up for. I think that was kind of the words they said, basically. And I think a lot of people took that as they're not going to fucking bother with season 5 or some shit along those lines. But I think we took it as, and what I think is more realistic, is that season 5, they were just saying that it's going to be a normal season despite it being a year and wait, right? Like people are saying, like, you know, they were trying to basically say, don't expect a year's worth of work, because that's not what it is. It's not what it's going to be. Hell, it might even be slightly less than normal seasons. Like I think season 3 might technically probably be more time spent on, or season 4 definitely. But
I mean,
yeah,
maybe, but I also think
saying,
I think they just have clearer heads though at the moment as well. I think it's weird to say to imply that this isn't how it's been before, but I do think this is not how it's been before. I think they've been doing a lot more planning than usual, and they're a lot more clear on what they're actually doing going into these updates. You know, because of how much they've been talking about what's going into season 5. Months ago, they've been talking about what's on the table at the very least, and I think that's something that we really haven't seen before. When we've seen them say, like, you know, months in advance of things happening, that they're, you know, it's an option, something is an option, but we haven't really seen things like, you know, multiple responses to questions during dev stream say that this is something that is objectively being considered for season 5, and that was back in September and October. It's just like they're really thinking ahead in a way that I think is going to make season 5 a very easy for them to work on and produce something that's more impressive, because I genuinely think that I think season 3 they were just burnt out from making weapons, and I think season 4 they were just blundering for a number of other reasons, and I think season 5 is going to be like really concise. And honestly, based on how much they've been able to say about Deep Rock, really makes me think they're not as hands off with it as they were like trying to say that they were. I feel like we don't know this, but I'm going to make a guess that they've probably done more work on Deep Rock than they intended to since they announced Roll Call. Which doesn't surprise me. We know how they are in terms of getting carried away.
The thing is, and I think that was like part 2 of my original statement. Is like, first of all, I think they said that, you know, we interpret season 5 will probably be about as like the average amount of season work, maybe slightly less time wise. But knowing Ghost Ship, that doesn't really mean jack shit. They always do more than they think they were gonna do, right? They always get carried away.
There's this interesting not concept, but sort of thing that I feel like I've picked up on. The problem is I can't really use very good examples for it, but I've sort of just picked up on this thing where it feels like as long as they put it in writing that they're gonna do something within a certain amount of time, then they can kind of just do it. And I think the weapons are actually probably the biggest example of that. They were just like, they just said they're going to do it, and it means they're going to do it, and it's going to happen quicker than even they expect because they've decided to do it. That I think, I basically what I'm saying is, I think based on my impressions that they are really fast workers when they know what they're doing, which is why I think we've been so scrutinous when things come out where it seems like they're not planning very well. And it sounds like the planning is a lot more. There's a lot more planning going on.
It's not just knowing what they're doing as well. It is that, but I think they only know what they're going to do when they start getting like excited towards something. Right? I feel like that's how they go about it. That like if an idea excites them, then like probably shit just starts speeding up. Which is why I assume Rocore. I mean, so far we know it's going to be like a year and a half maybe before it comes out in work. It's been in work for about probably approaching a year when season 5 comes out, and then it'll be another half a year. So that game will only be a year and a half old, and yet I imagine it will be fairly well done and playable. And I think that's just a testament to their unparalleled speed when they're just excited. When they have new ideas and they feel really fucking like hyped up to do something, they are an absolute unit.
I think that's actually one of the things that I really like about maintenance updates as well, though, is the fact that, like recently, Aaron was just asked about things on stream, and I think someone literally said, like, some brainlet said something in chat about like, oh, I guess Deep Rock's not getting any more content, and he was just like, you dumb motherfucker, you dumb. I think obviously Aaron didn't say that, but it's like, we got all this stuff. He even said something about how they are actually cooking some stuff up for the anniversary, which I can't imagine what that would be, like as in like extra. I can't imagine what that would be, because I wouldn't expect them to do anything like last year, and I certainly wouldn't expect something like Scale Brigade again. But maybe I don't know, maybe tuxedos. That'd be nice.
I could maybe see a very light teasing for Brocore, like a light teasing going into season 5, which is a hard teasing, like it's going to be based on it, and then Brocore. Like I could see it being to do with Brocore essentially. Even though it's a celebration of the anniversary, I think that would still kind of work. But we'll see.
Mean, what I'm saying is like the maintenance update, the last maintenance update. I think they only. I don't know this for sure, which is kind of a problem. But it's not their fault. I don't think they should. They're not. They don't have a responsibility to tell us exactly how long something took. But my estimation is that last maintenance update, they did it in about 3 weeks or so, maybe a bit more. Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah,
and that's
that
really impressive, and that's because that was the difference between the season and the maintenance update is that the maintenance updates basically have all the creativity stripped away, which is like a weird thing where it's like they kind of just have to make something within this period of time.
Content in its rawest form.
It's like raw content, and I think that's such an interesting like duality that we're going to have. We're especially going to see it once the next maintenance update and once season 5 come out. We're really going to see the differences as well. We're definitely going to do something, probably an episode like comparing update types. That would be an interesting thing. That could even include the ones. That could even include what updates were like. What's like the best kind of update? Like we could even compare to 3 seasons. Like, something like that.
Yeah, like how much did the maintenance updates add? Like, because if we assume it's like about a month for each of them, it will be about 2 months' work by the end of both maintenance patches. And I think we're going off lowball. Season 5 is going to be about 3 months, right? Maybe 4. So
it
would be a fair comparison.
Well, we don't know exactly when they're going to start working properly in the next maintenance update. That's the thing. I think it should come out about middle of March, so I assume that they'll start working on it early to mid-February, right? Next month, basically. And then so assuming that it's done by, and the maintenance updates have had very little patching involved, I assume that they would be done with it, like that second maintenance update completely done by the end of March. It should all be done. That includes patching it, whatever needs to be patched afterwards. But then it's only April, May, and then June. Quite a short window, and that's why I do think they've done work on this prior to, even if it's not actual work. They've still been saying things. They've still been saying things. Like, they knew.
Right?
Well, yeah, they know if they do actually finalize that as the thing that they're doing, they're going to know. Like as the mission type, they finalize that as the thing that's going to be the main feature of season 5. If once they come to a decision, it's because that mission type is going to be completely designed, and all they have to do is just make it. And then even then, they knew they were going to add a new set of overclocks months ago. They knew that, and that's given them loads of time to think about it, probably even work on it. And I'm sure a lot of those, maybe even all of those, are previously existing prototypes as well. And I think there's been a lot of planning going on that's going to make it so they can crack out something that is like comparable, possibly even bigger than Season 3 in like 2 to 3 months. Because a lot of the planning's already been done. That's the problem with, like, I think with Season 4 specifically. I think they basically started thinking about it when it was... Not when it was supposed to be in development necessarily, but yes, actually, no, that is exactly what I mean to say, actually. They only really started thinking about Season 4 when it was the next update on the table. You know, they've already done a lot of thinking about Season 5, even prior to the previous maintenance update, you know? So that's what it comes down to. That thing's really going to help them out.
I agree with you, but like it's kind of a moot point, right? That they spent more time thinking about it before they did it, but Godoy, it's going to take them a year, right? Like, they will have thought about Season 5 more. They spent more time thinking about it. Like they had the time they had to develop it and the time they had to think about it, which was like, was it 7 months in the end for Season 4? And like so they had 7 months for that. But Season 5, they've had a year. Like they will have thought it out more, especially if they're not that intent on working on it beforehand, since they'll be doing roll call. So like, it does bode well. Like that is why I think we're both so excited for Season 5. It is probably going to be the exact content the game needs, like in that area, right? Like something the maintenance updates can't provide, because the maintenance updates, they would have thought it out and they would provide what that won't. Like I would be surprised if we didn't get some secondary overclocks during the maintenance update, because they probably came up with them, but they know they won't add them with the update, like with Season 5, because the Season 5 is only primaries, isn't it? That's what they intend on.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I really want out of that goes beyond what they've said, which is 1 per primary weapon. The only thing I want beyond that is one more than that for the Warthog. That's my main request. And maybe even 1 for the Zhukovs just out of nowhere as well. If the Zhukovs get some kind of overhaul in either the maintenance update or Season 5, which I think is a fair expectation, if they're planning on doing that to another weapon, I think it's going to be the Zhukovs, and that's one of the weapons with only 5 overclocks. I think that should be really fair. That should be a part of its overhaul.
That's what I'm kind of saying. That kind of thing would be in like the maintenance, because if they're thinking about it and they know the Season 5 is going to be a primary heavy content like thing, right? It's like all the primaries are going to be getting stuff, and they know they can't really justify adding the only secondary being Zhukovs. The Zhukovs would get treatment in the maintenance update, like that. That's how, if I'm thinking ahead, and they agree with most of the community that the Zhukovs need a bit of attention, or with you at the very least, the fact that it has less overclocks than everything else is a crime. Like it's just like the same with that and the Warthog. It's like, come on, like it's just give it another overclock, right?
Yeah,
like,
I'm kind of almost of the position that I'd be like, across both the next maintenance update in Season 5, I would be really surprised if they somehow managed to only do 12 overclocks. To be 12 new overclocks released across both those updates. I'd be surprised if that's all it is. I'd be really surprised if they don't, just by sheer not coincidence, but just by sheer getting carried away, they don't go up to like 16 or something like that, or possibly even 20 at most.
The only issue is,
I can imagine them going over because they just can't. And that's what I want.
The only issue
this is one of the things I really am very, very okay with them getting carried away on.
The only issue is that Deep Rock or Ghost Ship, they have a tendency to kind of decide something for an arbitrary reason and then think that that's the only way they can do it, right? And this is kind of but I can give an example. I think, like I guess headgear's only for events. That's arbitrary. You could easily get good cosmetic in other areas.
I would say
decided not to.
I would say what that actually is that headgears are like a minimum, but they have to do a headgear every event. Not that it's the only
headgears
thing.
are like the easiest, which is probably why they picked it in the first place.
Yeah.
Because they are. But yeah, and that's my example. And then this is where I fear it might come into play again, is that they have in these maintenance updates and even like last thing, they have yet to add a new overclock.
Right.
You know
So
I mean?
is this like Rocket Barrage, for example, and Double Barrel?
This is Rocket Barrage, and not really Double Barrel. Double Barrel was just a hard rework.
Yeah, but Double Barrel got reworked into a new overclock. So
yeah, but also not. Yes and no.
Well, Rocket Barrage manual guidance cutoff got swapped out.
The point of Double Barrel stayed the same through all incarnations, right? It all only shot one in the clip. Yeah, iterations. That's the one.
Or incarnations.
The point of Double Barrel is still the same from going from its original dogshit clean to its overpowered unstable, right? It's still the same thing. It still shoots one shot per clip, right? I not say the same for roll control and guidance cutoff. They are dead. Like the original intent of those two like overclocks, completely unrecognizable. First of all, the Hurricane one was clearly completely different. Like manual guidance cutoff was not considered when they came up with this new one. They just got rid of it because they knew people didn't like it, right? Yeah. Like there's nothing similar. There's nothing similar about it. They just wanted to add a really high fire rate, like fully automatic rocket fucking overclock, and then got rid of that for some reason. Roll control, there was some semblance of roll control in the new version, right? They were like, we want to improve roll control, and in doing so, they kind of missed the point of roll control, and made it worse ultimately, in that regard. But yeah, so first of all, bring those two original shits back. No reason to get rid of overclocks, even if they're underused. They're clean. Leave them alone.
I mean, obviously, roll control didn't get replaced though, so they can't exactly just bring it back because it's still called roll control, and it's still a clean overclock. Which is honestly is an even bigger problem. Is that they kind of didn't go far enough with that. But yeah, obviously, manual guidance cutoff should come back. But I think what you're trying to say is basically they couldn't add one. They couldn't add more than there are, like in terms of the numbers.
They seem to have decided that they don't want to change the amount of overclocks in the game through these maintenance updates and the last season patches, right? Because that's when we got the manual guidance cutoff one. So my fear is that even if the Zhukovs get attention, and even if the Zhukovs gets a new overclock in the maintenance update, they would just remove one of the worst things on the Zhukovs. That it would continue to have 5 overclocks, like, which would be insane. But that's the kind of thing Ghost Ship seems to do.
Yeah, I can't really disagree.
It is something that they get it in their head that they can't break the arbitrary rule they've made, and then they do a really weird, stupid fucking decision like that.
That's the source. That is kind of the source of all of the bad decisions that we think they've made. Usually come from this kind of mindset. I think, even though I foolishly cannot point to many others, which is quite annoying, but I know there are a lot of them. Because I mean, pretty much every thing that we think is either not exactly how it should be or was either a misstep, I think it can pretty much all be traced back to this mindset that they seem to have. And a lot of the times it actually comes down to things that we think should be done that just aren't being done, like daily challenges, for example. Not getting any more kind of variety, and instead they add something that encourages you to use specific weapons, but it's a completely new system instead of expanding the daily challenge system, which is just left as is.
Yeah, or intertwining the both naturally.
Yeah, it's hard, but the thing is, it's hard to pin down whether they think that the players are more protective of things staying the way they are than they realize, or if it's just because they aren't interested enough in a system like that to actually explore it further. Like sometimes it kind of blurs the line where it's like, are they uninterested, or do they actually think that people don't want this thing to change? Because I think I think people do. I think people want most things to have sort of a somewhat predictable frequency of changes and dynamism to it that you can sort of expect changes not on a regular basis, but daily challenges shouldn't have been like left the way they are for so long, especially with season 3. Well, the daily challenge selection being exactly the same as it was from season 3 to now, and it will be until season 5. Things like that, they kind of just don't seem to. Yeah, and that's why I think them being uninterested could be a part of that as well as them sort of overestimating how much players care about certain things as well, or how much players want these things to not be touched. Because I think sometimes they're just kind of wrong. What's this idiot doing? We were talking about arbitrary limitations, which is something that's never come up before. Which is something.
Yes, obviously, I don't think we should linger on it, but I do think we should be concerned about it. For the example of this next maintenance update, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if this could go for the walk as well. They just make a point to make it all like at least 6 in the maintenance, so then they can bring it all up to like 7 or 8 for some.
You hear that, guys? He stood up, so he's out of breath.
I ran downstairs and then upstairs. That was a lot, all right, and I'm ill, so shut up.
Yeah,
well, because
it gets the thing is, what makes it more arbitrary, what makes it more, unfortunately, forgive the word, stupid, is when you realise that in a lot of weapon balancing cases, they're very willing to add new weapon mods, for example. And I think this has,
which is good.
And I understand. I think the logic here can be very immediately presumed, which is that the overclock grind is separate from just buying modifications. There's a difference there, I know, but I also don't think it's different enough at this point in the game's life cycle, where most people are either into, or not most people have completed it, but most people are sort of into the overclock grind. I don't think that the lightest sprinkling imaginable, like 1 or 2 actually new overclocks, it's not going to throw everyone off or make them feel like the grind is being invalidated or unnecessarily extended. You get something like it, and it's clearly not based on making too big of a change either, because obviously Neurocorrosive Catalyst was a pretty dynamic addition, and in fact they completely reworked the Barter's tier 5s, in fact, and sort of things like that they're willing to do. I guess even in the maintenance update there was like multiple examples of this happening as well.
They changed electricity as a stat, man, and how much that did. Like, it's just odd. Like, it's I don't know. It feels like questions that if you ask them, they just wouldn't really think about it. Like that would be like their answers. Like, like I don't know. Like, just like things they decided in the past, or things that they decided more recently, and they just kind of, it's just how it is now. Like they don't seem to want to add new overclocks until they decide that they want to add new overclocks, right? Because they're not going to replace everything in season 5, right? Right, like all of these new overclocks in the primaries, they're not coming at the cost of the old overclocks. But that might be, that's the key difference. Is they're like, okay, we are adding new overclocks in season 5. Yet technically they've added a couple already recently, but it's like they don't seem to see it that way, right? Which I think maybe that's it. Like, we didn't really add a new overclock if we took another one away.
There's a bit of rigidity in like the way they add content, where it's like sometimes it feels like they feel like they can only add content to an aspect of the game if it's a major part of an update, where it's like, we can't add new overclock unless we're adding new overclocks. That kind of mentality, And
like adding a new overclock, that goes a bit too far for the balancing. So we need to like get rid of an old overclock so it's not as ridiculous. Like something like that.
Well, it's like, no, because one of the bullet points this update isn't new overclocks, so we can't increase the number of overclocks in the game. We simply cannot. Yeah. It's kind of like a weird arbitrary limitation. But I think something needs to be said is that, we're sort of reiterating a lot of stuff we've said before by bringing up arbitrary limitations again, but to bring up something else again that we brought up recently, because it's a recent change, is sort of examples of them going back and sort of knocking down certain arbitrary limitations. I would say a little bit, not to this degree, but I think you already brought up the electricity thing, and it's just things like that are pretty like nice.
That was a technical arbitrary limitation where just electricity just didn't work on some things.
But it
Like, that
didn't
was
feel
just-
like
that was just
there was a
thing.
good reason for it. You know, it was like one of those things where like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like there's a good reason for it, but it's the way it is, so they're going to leave it that way. Except they didn't. They have changed it now. You could even argue a tiny. This is smaller, but like a little bit about like the loadout icons, where it's just like we just added a bunch of loadout icons and we're just done with them. But they still added some more. But it's like that's much smaller, but it's still there's a couple examples of them doing this recently that I think are appreciated, and we kind of want to see more of it. And we want to see, I think, the scale of that increasing as well. The scale of breaking down those old limitations to.
And I think there is a chance
become
that we
broader.
will see. Because they did say that the weapon balancing, they do intend on making weapon balancing an even bigger thing in this next maintenance, right?
I think we need to maybe let go of that, because I feel like that might have been quite offhanded, but I still think it's probably true.
Maybe. But like that's why I think like maybe if they're more open about the fact that that's going to be a bigger thing with the new overclocks coming up, I could see them arbitrarily deciding to arbitrarily break their decision and they do the we'll make them all 6 thing, because I think if they said that in the maintenance update trailer, like people would be like fuck yeah, right? Because if they are willing to say in that trailer like we are making like the minimum current amount 6, so we're gonna give a new overclock to the Zukovs and the Warthog, and that's it, right? It's just those two.
Yeah.
But the only ones with 5, yeah. So if they would just say that, and so this is in anticipation for season 5, where we intend to give like all the primaries a new overclock, so to kind of even the table, like a little whatever. So if they just said something like that, then like hip for fucking hey, right? Like everyone would, like no one would have an issue with that at all, right? Especially if they made clear that the only reason these two are getting special treatment is because they've been kind of done dirty in the past, right? Like they just like they received the short end of the overclock stick. So I don't know. It's with it being arbitrary, they can just arbitrarily decide to do it, and I think they should. I think it's up there as far as things right now. To probably just break down, right? Just the arbitrary bullshit. Just blow through that barrier. Give them both 6 for now, and then give all the primaries 1 season 5, and then I think everyone will be happy.
It's why I really hope that they wouldn't because there's been examples of them getting carried away with things that we don't and it's going to sound really what's the word, entitled, but there's been examples of them getting carried away with things that we don't approve of them getting carried away with, right? And what I mean by bringing this up is that there are things that we do approve of them getting carried away with as well. For example, I very much so, I've already said this like a couple minutes ago, I approve of them getting carried away with new overclocks. I really hope that they don't stop themselves if they find themselves going off the rails with the amount of that they're going to add. I really hope they don't stop themselves with that kind of thing, because, and I think it's fairly.
Continue, Harry.
It's I think it would be kind of justified to be annoyed, not in the sense of like, oh, we shouldn't have got carried away with these things, but more so it's just like, why did you stop yourself with something like this? That is this like cool, basically. Like I mean it literally in that sense. Just like, don't hold back with this. That's all I'm saying. Because you haven't held back with things that maybe you should have done. So definitely don't hold back with the things that would benefit from you not holding back.
The Christmas explosion, right? Where they just decided, fuck it, we'll make all types of cosmetics that we can for Christmas.
Exactly. Honestly, because like things, the season 4 balancing kind of felt like them getting carried away, but also for a very good reason. And I want to see things like that.
Difference, right? You will notice the Christmas one was cool, but wasn't that not many people talked about it. Mike getting carried away on the weapon balancing in season 4, on the other hand,
made season 4
shit, man.
Made season 4
that
like
saved
it saved season 4. It might. Oh my god,
Like-
is that actually a legitimate question? I think that's a legitimate question to ask, like genuinely, like to debate.
Yeah.
I think there is a debate there that might have saved the game, even.
It was literally, it was doom, 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 doom. Oh god, oh god, oh god. And then all of a sudden, the weapon changes came out, and people were like, "Holy fucking shit! A reason to play the game." Right? Like,
Yeah.
it was.
That's, I mean, that is
It-
also another part of the argument, and a really, it's not trivial, but it is very I think I'm appealing to very simplistic emotions, but I think you kind of need to. I think it's a very major argument to make about why they should let themselves get carried away with overclocks is because, and I hope that they've been able to pick up on this by now, is that equipment is the most important, is the thing that gives the game the most replayability. Genuinely, it's the most important thing. Equipment, weapons, overclocks, mixing and matching, creating builds, all that stuff. That is the name of the game, and they should not be like being stingy with adding new overclocks, because that shit will go down very well no matter how many they add.
Yeah, I think all that equipment stuff is 50%. Right, well,
that's the argument though. It's like if you want to break down the like the three main things, right? If you want to, and they are there's loads of other parts of the game, obviously, like loads, but the three main things are weapons. Equipment, missions, and biomes, right? And biomes and missions are their own half. It's like two halves. One half is equipment, one half is missions, and missions are biomes and mission types. That's how I would say.
Yeah, I would say my three would be equipment, which is you on that equipment terminal, most of everything there. The just like gameplay, like the actual like missions, biomes, warnings, secondary objectives, all that. And then cosmetic.
Yes, customization in general, which obviously goes across more than one terminal though as well.
Boss code, all that, all those three combined, I think like they're like the majority. I think it's not a 33, 33, 33. I think equipment is probably like 35. No, wait, no. Like, I don't know. 40, 40, 20. The equipment is like 40%. The actual in-game stuff is like 40%. And then like 20% cosmetics. Considering some people do not regard cosmetics in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly, that's the difference, because that's a really because cosmetics are like an unlocking thing that's a really weird part of games where no one's going to deny the importance of like your character's equipment in any game. Equipment is a universal thing in games. When you think about it, in every game you have weapons, or at least you have an arsenal of abilities, at least, even if it's just your fists. That's something you literally cannot deny is endemic to a gameplay experience. And then the actual gameplay itself, how the gameplay is framed, is also objectively up there as well. It doesn't matter how like genuinely important cosmetics have been to Deep Rock's success. The fact is, there are people who exist who don't treat that stuff with any importance whatsoever, and that's because that is more subjective than the other two things. The other two things are objective, and cosmetics are objectively subjective in how important they are. The other two things aren't. They are,
which is why I do think
the percentages are actually correct. Almost.
Yeah, but I do think you've got to acknowledge that, and I assume you do, but I'm just going to say generally that like the weapons you use in the missions you complete, what is the objective there? To get money, to get fucking cosmetics, and to earn cosmetics in the battle pass, and to earn cosmetics in all these other things. It's all about the fucking cosmetics. That's the main goal of the game. But my point was, which I've kind of forgotten now. I'm there. The equipment, while being tied so heavily to like being essentially the same value as in-game stuff, is probably the significantly easier thing to do to the same effect, right?
Yeah.
Weapon balancing, because
it can come in so many, it's much smaller components. That's why.
Yeah. Adding that tier 5 overclock to the Sabata, honestly, that piece of content was bigger and better than both of the new enemies for me, right? Like ignoring all the rockpox, obviously, but the Stingtail and the Spreader, they are not adding as much for me as just a hard driller main as that tier 5 neurocorrosive compound, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Which, in all fairness, that overclock is a pretty big and probably annoying, time-consuming one. Like I assume they've made easier, like not overclocks, but like tier 5s. But ultimately, those changes are a lot smaller and have the exact same effect as like adding a new thing. Like adding a new adding a bunch of new secondary objectives would be way more effort than like adding like a couple overclocks, or maybe about the same. But the overclocks would absolutely triumph, like as far as shits people give.
It's like it's like I agree with you, Eddie, but it's like the weird thing that makes me think of is the fact that I'm not a huge fan of either, but I almost approve more of like the seasonal enemy bubbles than I do of actually adding new generic enemies. And season 4 is what made me have that opinion, by the way. We were actually we thought it was like a really good thing going to season 4, getting the new generic enemies, and that's not an insult, that's just a technical term, but it's not an official technical term, but it is a technical term. We label them as generic enemies, and I think Ghost Ship do in a way as well. But either way, those are Stingtail and the Spreader. But obviously, they just didn't go down that well. The Spreader was very quick to settle in, but the Stingtail required a lot of reworking to be not hated. And yet, I don't think anyone has a single problem with any aspect of the weapon balancing in the sense that it made the game worse at all. All it did was made it more exciting and interesting to play. And it's just that stuff is just better, which is why I said about the enemy bubbles, where it's like, I kind of sometimes wish they just were spending their time on other things, but the fact of the matter is, seasonal enemies are going to be a thing anyway, and frankly, I am interested to see new ones in season 5, assuming that is gonna be a thing. But I almost approve of them more because they are forced into these bubbles that are in a way almost not more interesting, but I genuinely think separating them from the main pool, having these little pockets of gameplay, it's actually become better than I thought it was originally.
Yeah,
like especially with the rock pops getting all those new enemies, because I think it's because the reason why we thought it was so cool getting new generic enemies in season 4 is because the rock pop was a very, very poorly fleshed out enemy pool on its own. But after season 4, season 4 fleshed out the rock pox as well, way more than it fleshed out anything else. And so the rock pox are a genuinely pretty decent pool of enemies that are restricted to their own part of the game, and that's what season 4 told me. That's almost a better way of implementing enemies, is that, rather than just adding generic ones. Even though, as we've kind of established, we think that their time is better spent with equipment, and honestly, definitely also things like mission types and biomes before enemies now as well.
Yeah, but I feel like I do need to also clarify, as much as I think it's true, either way, I think it devalues the more you do it, right? Like, if they were to just add equipment constantly for like all 3 the next seasons, right, and we barely got anything on the other side, adding new equipment would be essentially worthless, right? Even if it was the new guns, people would care less if they had just been adding constant stuff for all the years prior, like all the time prior. Like, I do think you want to add a good amount to either, like, at separate times to keep it balanced, really. Which is why, I think I'm looking forward to season 5, because I think a new game modes, while probably being a lot more effort, like probably being of equal effort to all those overclocks. Like, I mean, I'm probably underestimating those overclocks, but some of them probably won't be too strenuous. But like, if you were to look at those both of those things, the game mode probably has a lot more in it than each individual overclock. But overall, both are going to do a lot, right? Like, those overclocks, they are going to get people playing at least 12 more times, but realistically a lot more than that, right? Like, you're going to use each overclock more than once to try and figure out the best build for it, if you like it or not, when's the best time to use it. Each overclock has like a potential minimum of like 5 games in them each, right? But then, like, with those games, you will now have a new game mode to try them out in, right? And a new game mode, I mean, how fresh... If it is the kind of game mode we're expecting, a more simple...
It is. No, because if it happens, that is what it is. I think they've been pretty, like, just very clear on that the mission type that they are working on, and I mean working on in the sense of they're working on this idea.
Brainstorming.
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit different to them. This is exactly what they're not literally implementing this into the game as we speak, but this is the mission type that they are developing as an idea. It is a simpler one in terms of how it will play out. It's going to be more similar to Mine Expedition probably than anything else, which means it's going to be even like, you know, simpler than on-site refining, which obviously to some people might sound kind of I don't know if cheap's the right word, but what it is, what I hope it is, as long as it's like innovative in enough ways, and it's somehow also quite a simple mission type, I think that is, well, we know that's exactly what the game needs, is something like that. Something that somehow is definitively innovative and distinct and stands on its own, but is still a simpler mission type, which I think they can pull it off. That is exactly what the game needs. And that is something like on-site refining as well. That is kind of what on-site refining is, which isn't as simple of a mission type as people think, but it is still a relatively simple one, but it still manages to stand on its own very well. It's very distinct. So I don't want something that is just Mining Expedition, but something that is in a similar vein to it.
Like that.
No, it's only in a similar vein to Mining Expedition, though, and I think we need that.
I think it's they probably have a better idea of it than we ever really will.
Yeah.
Just something that is intrinsically so simplistic is probably not the right word, but so like I'm gonna go with easy, that it's replayable, right? Just something easy. Like think about how not easy like Industrial Sabotage is.
Yeah, it's Industrial Sabotage.
It is not an easy game, like game mode to play. But mining Morkite, just mine the ores on the walls, man, and you'll fucking do the mission.
Yeah,
like it's like, you know, same with the quark and the eggs. Just mine where there's glitter on the wall. I mean, it took us, we didn't know it the first time we played because we didn't listen to the instructions. But you know, once you know it, it's so fucking easy. You just mine where it tells you to. But with all this stuff, it's stepped up in ways that are both good, or like, you know, oil refinery or whatever that game mode's fucking called, or bad in Industrial Sabotage and Escort Duty, right? Even though Escort Duty is not the most complicated thing in the world, or at least it could have not been, right? If it was just Escort Director, that's fairly simple, but it's not. It's also Escort Director until she needs everything, then refuel, then Escort Director until she then refuel, and then, you know, and then a giant fucking boss fight, which, you know, not easy. So if they just basically just do this, like if that's the objective, just like if they, you know, in like the what do they call it, like the instruction manual, right? How at the beginning it was so quick and easy that like they just say mine is deposit it, and then like when you've got enough, leave. like they used to have that, but now with these new missions, it is like 7 steps, and they have to skip most of like the more nuanced parts because like there's not enough space, right? Like the easy ones always have extraction, but I think the newer ones don't bother. They don't have the space. They just assume you know to extract. But
like in some of them, they always put like extraction in there as a step of the mission just to fill it out, just to fill out the entry.
Because it's literally mine Morkite, deposit, leave. Like that's it. And like I think if we are a lot more closer to that, like do something, but it's just like one thing, then like leave. like
leave.
Do the same simple thing a good couple of times, depending on whatever it is, and then get the fuck out of there. They could make a twist on it, but the twist shouldn't be effort, is my theory. I think my cats have gotten a hand on catnip.
What? Why do you have catnip?
I don't know. Mum keeps buying it for them, and they fucking love it.
Yeah.
And they tear the bags apart, which is what they're currently doing, and then they throw it everywhere. Then they roll in it, gets all in their fur, which is why I'm going to quickly grab on it. You can talk to them.
I'm not talking to you. I'm going to the toilet. You did this. You. For shame. Look, he's confiscated.
Got a bunch of holes in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we've not started talking about either of the things we're supposed to talk
No,
about.
let's keep going where we were. I think, if you remember where you were, no, because I think we could have, I think we would have been relatively done with spontaneous, interaction after you'd gone through whatever you were saying about mission types. I can't remember. That's the thing. I can't remember you were on it.
Keep it clean. A clean game mode is what we need. Right?
Clean.
We've been getting some unstable game modes, right? And I think we need to go back to some cleans.
I would say at least a balanced. Maybe think more along the lines of maybe as long as it's not escort duty or industrial sabotage. Because I say the balanced ones are things like point extraction and on-site refining and elimination.
Molly is like that's balanced as hell. It's like do a simple thing, but no Molly, right? it's like that kind of balancedness to it. Then you've got like egg, Morkite, clean. They're clean as hell. Just dig in wall, get thing, deposit it.
Would you say point extractions are clean?
Point extraction, no. I mean, it's close, but it doesn't have Molly. It's like it was one of those
elimination. Elimination's an awkward one because I would say that is a clean, right? Clean. Really, it is. Yeah. It's obviously it's a cut above in terms of like thematically, I would say. But
just go there, kill something, right? Yeah. And Molly doesn't even matter really, whether or not you have it.
And I'm sick of elimination. I haven't seen that much of it recently. I haven't seen that much of it. I should be fair.
That's why you're chill. If you had seen some, you would have not calmed down.
Let's go on the subreddit and have a look. Let's see.
Don't do that. Don't actively look up Dreadnought slander, then get pissed when you find Dreadnought slander. Yeah, and then obviously I think the most recent 3 are all unstables. One of them are good, the other 2 not so much. Clean, maybe balanced. And I feel like Mini Mules is an example of like the original unstable. If we're still going with this metaphor.
Well, yes, like, because
that was.
Well, you can look at the launch. You can look at the launch selection. Is Salvage Drop's not a part of that? The launch selection of missions, which I don't really know what you would consider launch. I think this is correct to early access launch, or at least the earliest version of the IG that is recognizable. That had mining expedition, egg hunt, elimination, and point extraction. So, which obviously makes it sound like there's less than there are, but that is how many there were. Sometimes I feel like I'm forgetting some, but I'm not. I'm just making sure. Yeah, mining expedition, egg hunt, point extraction, elimination, and then salvage operation actually got added later. Salvage operation was the first new mission type.
Yeah.
So there you go.
but yeah, since then it's all been unstable. It's all been more complicated than the last, and they need to tone it the fuck down, and they know that. They've said that on many occasions. I think it was Mikkel first, right? Mikkel was like, "Yeah, we kind of my favorite of game modes is mining, like mission, like Morkai mining, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that they want more like that. Which is a fucking green flag if we ever saw one, right?
Well, Mikkel is a green flag, frankly.
Whenever he's in charge, Deep Rock's in good hand.
Yeah, whenever he says anything, I'm just reminded that they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Till we hear nothing, that we start getting scared.
Well, yeah. Speaking of which, I mean, obviously, this is a thing that's really just almost impossible to talk about. But I do want to think, because obviously we're getting carried away, but at least we're not getting carried away in the sense of like, why the fuck isn't this happening right now? But I am still thinking about when we're actually going to hear about what is going to be happening, because obviously we know when certain things are happening. We know roughly when we're getting the next maintenance update in season 5, and that the anniversary event, we know roughly when that will happen, and that it might include some extra things. But it's like, when are we actually gonna know some details? Well, I would say not particularly soon. But then again, we're actually almost at the end of January, to be fair, and we'll probably, we'll know stuff from the anniversary. We'll get plenty of stuff. They'll be close to the maintenance update. I think the anniversary is going to be like a big news dump. Actually, probably the biggest it's actually been, especially bigger than last year's like Deep Rock news.
I feel like we were supposed to know something.
What?
By now, I feel like there's an event that we were supposed to have at least heard of that happens around the end of January. Is there any word on that by any chance?
No, there isn't.
No, they've just not talked about the Lunar Festival, like. And this, and I do mean like any word. Like you mentioned the dev stream, not mentioned on there, right? And then the news post they did recently, did they not mention that at the bottom of it either?
No.
No. Like they just haven't brought it up this year so far.
Yeah, and it's really weird. Well, okay, hold on a minute. It's on the 10th of February this year. All right, so calm down. Calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can still get. Let's have a look. Yeah, they can still get like over 2 weeks out of it before the 10th of February.
Is that like when the actual Chinese New Year is?
Let's have a look when it was last year. This is so stupid. It was on the 22nd of January last year. Okay, so actually, that does make a bit more sense. What about 2022? On the Wikipedia for Lunar New Year. Okay, that doesn't help because it's got loads. Yeah, okay, that's too much. Whatever. Basically, why do we care about this? Well, I don't. But it's on the roadmap. These events are all on the roadmap, and that means that they didn't have any dates attached to them. Like this is when this event happens every year, but they are there and they're meant to happen every year. Unless, and this, I really shouldn't have to do this. I'm going to go to the roadmap and make sure it's there. Yeah, of course it is. Lunar Festival, Great Aircon Anniversary, which is the wrong way round for some reason. Space Beach Party, Oktoberfest, Halloween, and Yuletide. So yeah, there you go. And it's just
a bit odd.
Oh.
That's trying to get their catnip back.
I'll kill him.
I won't have it.
Don't talk about this place. I'll kill him. Yeah. So what we saying? Yeah. So they should have mentioned it by now. Basically, that's what we're saying. That's what
It's a tad odd.
It is odd. It's odd. Like I said, I don't really. No, I do care, but in a different kind of way. So I'm not worried about it because I'm kind of just not playing Deep Rock at the moment in that kind of way. I'm playing a bit more. I'm playing because I'm actually trying to test out builds I can use for build showcases. But I'm not worried about getting my double performance points from the Lunar Festival. But yeah, we talked about this yesterday, and I don't know if it might be I might be jumping the gun, but were you like going to, or did you imply that you like a chance that it's not happening? If I can speak bluntly. Because I don't think that's the case, by the way.
I wasn't implying that, but I think it's odd, right? And I think I did kind of imply that, but not now, but like yesterday.
Yeah, which it shouldn't be the case, because the entire point of everything that a lot of what they've been doing over the past while is making sure that they don't have to spend any effort in making these things happen. They can essentially just happen on a rota without them really having any input, But
as we mentioned, the Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year event is one of those events where they kind of didn't save themselves that. It's actually quite tailored to the year that it's in. Because they would have to, it was the year of the bunny last year, and now it's not that. I think it's year of the pig.
No, it's year of the dragon.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hooray! That's gonna look sick. No, they'll fuck it up.
Oh, let's just make sure. Yeah, it's Year of the Dragon. There you go. Well, I found yeah. Look, I just looked up the dragon, Chinese zodiac sign, eminent personalities, Shakira, John Lennon. What? I feel like I'm being bombarded with stuff I just don't understand. Which is often. Do we have a point to make here, other than that it's weird that we haven't mentioned it yet?
I know. We made our point. Yeah, it's a bit odd.
It's a bit odd, isn't it? It's a bit odd.
I would also. I mean, I guess it's not that like we got a post recently, but it's been a while since we've had a below decks, right? I feel like we thought we were going to get them more frequently.
Yeah. So, well, I still think that's something to do with like the open development thing, which is like, once again, God, is this Ghost Ship being bad at communicating, or is this just me being stupid? I don't know. Maybe it's both. But the truth is, they did say that the open development thing would be started by season 5, and that would translate into open development for Growcore as well when it goes into early access, like when it launches, basically. And I think the below decks posts are kind of like I think this is the frequency that we should expect those, because I think the idea is when they actually start doing open development again, that there's going to be other types of posts as well, like a bunch of other different types of posts on top of the below deck. So I think this is actually how frequent they're going to be. But there's a bunch of other stuff that they just haven't started doing yet, because and yeah, this is the truth is, we knew that things were going to take a while to sort of kick into gear, and it will happen, but we're still just not at that point yet.
Yeah, but it kind of felt they were in gear pretty quick, and now they've just slowly been coming out of gear again. And it's just
that's because they still haven't started the open development like process of like that communication practice. And right now they're just working on Road Core as well.
If there was a below deck,
which they can't say anything about at the moment. They can't say anything about Road Core at the moment until it goes into early access, and they're not working on Deep Rock right now, or at least they're not focusing on Deep Rock right now.
Which is fair. I would counter it with my idea that you would then aim for a more esoteric, idea-based post about what the team thought on Deep Rock and stuff related to it, rather than actual stuff going on. But that's just my take. I guess fair enough. But it's just weirdly quiet, but not that quiet, because we got a post recently. But the post was basically their obligatory New Year stats. They haven't really said anything else, really, have they?
No.
So, just a bit odd. Just a bit odd. And I'm like really close to a sneeze, and it's agonizing.
Yeah, well, I think we're in this weird spot where basically the only thing they could say right now is kind of things that were announced last October. Like, it's not like they've made any definitive progress on like any updates for Deep Rock at the moment. Like, even if they've done a lot of work on ideas, we know that from the dev streams, but that's not the kind of thing they're going to say in a random Steam post. Although the truth is, maybe we think they should. They should say that they are heavily considering and developing ideas for new mission types, or a new mission type, and new ideas for biomes. We think that we think that's something that's worthy of a Steam post. I think that's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah. They do say so much still in the dev
we've
streams.
known that we're going to get an update in March, and we've known that we're going to get season 5 in June for a long time, and those are big pieces of information, but we've just had them for so long. And basically now we're just in the period where we're just waiting for those things to come to fruition. Like, it's not like they'd be able to say anything different right now. The only thing they'd be able to say right now is say when those things are happening, but we already know that. We've known that for ages now. That's the thing. We've known that for a while when these things are happening.
Yeah. Or they can say the stuff that they've been saying in dev streams about what they're thinking of adding to the stuff, right? Like they've mentioned about how like the maintenance update, they could do the perk rework if the need must, right? That's something on the table. They could just make a behind the scenes or below the decks. That's the thing. Below the decks post about the maintenance update, what they're thinking about adding to it, and then ask the community, what do you want most, right? Like, sounds like a pretty fucking good idea to me, really. Like, I don't know. It's
Yeah, in my opinion, there shouldn't really have been this there shouldn't have been this delay for them to become more communicative. I feel like it should have started immediately, and yet they planned on starting to do that with them starting to make season 5. So that would be after the first maintenance update. But either way, like I said, I do think the upcoming anniversary should be a sort of like a, not necessarily a pulling back the curtain, but I think it's going to be a lot more informative than previous ones have been, because it's going to be much closer to an update. And even though it's going to be, you go to last year, it's actually going to be the same amount of time between the anniversary and the next season. Because season 4 we found out that it was going to be in June from the anniversary stream, but the difference is they simply know more about what they're doing for season 5 at this time than they did about season 4.
Yeah.
So I think when we get some information, we're going to get more than we did last time, but we're still going to have to wait a little bit. In fact, it's not going to be that long, right? It's going to be probably about a month from now, which is, we can get by, I think.
Maybe. No, it's not like I've played it in like a month. like Christmas hat. Actually, no, I played it very recently for one game. But yeah. So I am starting to get in the mood again. But
yeah, maybe we should wait a bit.
No real reason.
We should wait a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but this is what I think it's going to be. Obviously, we're going to kind of wait and see. But I think there's just going to be a lot more. I think the difference is between what Deep Root's going to be like what Deep Root's going to be like from now, from before, is that I think the game is going to feel a lot better when it's worth paying attention to. But we also now have this element of the game is going to go through periods when it's not worth paying attention to. That's kind of the difference.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot better than before when we're actually getting stuff and when there's stuff to look forward to, because they're just going to be a lot more open, and frankly, I think it's just going to be better than the last few seasons. But these periods are going to exist now as well, and they're going to be more. They're also more defined. Like before, it felt like we had periods like this for no good reason before. That's also different. This is now a very good reason why. Even though we still think they should be taking measures to make it so there isn't any silence, we know that there's a good reason for them to not have much to say, basically. Beforehand, we had periods like this where it was just like, it felt completely unjustified and like they were slipping in terms of the actual work that they're doing. Now it's sort of like a different thing where it's just like...
And then they released a season which only confirmed most people's fears, really.
Yeah.
Like we were like, oh, what are they doing now? Do they even know what they're doing now? It feels aimless. It feels like they're not communicating. And then this is season which reflects that perfectly.
And this is going to I think it's going to change before then, but it's going to completely change after Road Core, though. It's going to completely change because they're going to have so much to say about that so often. That's basically
because Road Core is going to be having updates like constantly, right? If it's anything like early Deep Rock, like it's going to be insane. They're going to be talking constantly, which is why it's it's going to feel kind of rough, like to only sit on the Deep Rock Galactic game alone side of the train, which is obviously why we don't really want to be just on that train. Either that it getting added to Xbox, or we somehow muster the technology to play it.
Muster the technology.
Yeah. But hold on. No, it's gone. No, I do remember now. Point is, they will definitely be unstoppable talking and like to the community wise and like making updates constantly wise come Rocal, yeah. The issue is how much of that unstoppableness is going to go towards the original Deep Rock side of things, and whether or not it'll feel like it'll carry over every time. Like when they switch over to Deep Rock, they're like still like, yeah, we're doing all this.
Well,
Let's fucking go. Yeah.
That is
Or
that is
you know, we
seemingly what
noticed
they
them.
intend on doing, and I'm going
Yeah, that's what
if
they intend on doing.
if they don't do that, I'm going to point it out. They said
Yeah.
that season 5 would be openly developed, which means there should be like they said they literally hold on. I mean, I think do I have it up right now? Yeah, I do. Back to open development, and then it says like season 5. We're going to be sharing a lot more about season 5 development we have previous seasons, which means like pretty much as soon as we're done with the next maintenance update, it's going to be like a really different and better build up to season 5 than we've had for any previous season.
I think isn't that already in play? We know we're getting all of the primaries getting a new overclock, and that we're probably either getting a biome, but more likely a game mode. We've never known that much this far ahead, right?
Yeah.
Like that is
exactly.
You know,
it's just, but that's the difference, though. That's the difference between the types of communication that they engage with. You know, there is a very regular form of communication in the form of the dev streams, and we've been over this. This is very well trod ground for us, trying to make a point that they need to be like doing more with that. That's kind of the point. We're not.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever said we want them to just do basically a dev stream, but like do it in the form of basically Aaron just types up everything that he thinks people ask and then put it in a Steam post. We don't want him to do that. But we think like making their own version of the dev Q&A article is basically what we think they should do. Or at least I do.
Aaron is so often on the dev stream, right? Like he is so often there, like almost always now, right? He's like part of the team. Like, and yet that's not translated. Like he is in the fucking firing range of what people want, the questions people are asking. He would have such a firm fucking grasp on what that is, right? And obviously, he probably answers them there and then, right? Like there and then. But like, I don't know how it doesn't get to him that I bet he answers the same fucking questions like every goddamn stream, right?
Yeah.
Where if he, in all fairness, this wouldn't cure it, but if he was then like the same soppy sods keep asking him like, "Hey, where's the new class coming? Hey, why isn't there a water biome?" I don't know why he hasn't gone like, "I fuck this," and then like made a Steam post behind the scenes talking about just in express fucking detail like why a 5th class isn't happening, like, or is very, very unlikely. Here's Mikkel saying why. Here's fucking Soren saying why. Like maybe it's like a logistical nightmare. Like, or everyone saying all the reasons they could think of about why it's not happening. Get that shit fucking documented. He's just wasting everyone's time with that.
Maybe
not in action. I'm sorry, but like, I feel a stake in his fucking horse because, like,
what's that even mean? What was that? What was that?
I don't know. It was some sort of saying that basically, like, I was pitching his job before he got it, or like when he was getting it. Like I was saying, Ghost Ship needs someone to do this, and he's that someone, and he is barely doing it.
So I point out Tyler is basically lying down while saying all this.
Yeah. But like, if I was getting paid to do it, I'd fucking do it, mate. I'm not even getting paid, and if I could, I would. Like, if you go on the fucking Steam page and like talk to all the devs and be like, "Hey, why is there no 5th class? Can you run me down?" And then I'll fucking write it up. It would be dog shit because I suck at writing, but like, I fucking do it, especially if I'm getting paid. But like, and I'm not accusing him of being lazy because I am. Not I am accusing him. I am lazy, but I'm simply saying that I was hoping for more than he's currently given us. Essentially, that's my stance on it. I respect him, and he's still done some good stuff, but I was hoping for more, more like introspective and more on the side of like listening as well. Like Ghost Ship is always listening, but you can never really tell right? Other than when devs randomly respond to
Yeah,
Reddit.
it's
Or,
been
like,
it's
and
been
I
way
guess
too
they
long
never
since
really
they've
asked.
it's been too long since they've asked people
Yeah,
something, you know?
like that kind of stuff I was expecting with these things, because yeah, just Aaron making a post like I don't know, yeah, about the fifth class. You probably wouldn't be asking about that. That would be a more formal document as to why you should stop asking us, or them, but it would be us from his perspective. But
It'd be like
like the
it'd be like
question thing would
it would be a
be,
below decks. It'd be like the wills and won'ts of Deep Rock Galactic. Things that mainly the won't, by the way. Like it could be like basically things that will continue to happen and things that absolutely will not ever happen. Basically, it should be in that
yeah,
post. Why they will
yeah,
never
something
make
like
a
that.
water biome. Why they'll never make a new class. Why they'll never make. Actually, that's
Or
pretty
like
much it.
some of
Actually.
their, yeah, or like different traversal equipment,
Oh
right?
yeah,
That kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Why, or even just
But
something
like
like
some of,
why weapons are so hard to make. That'd be cool.
yeah,
That's a separate
just
thing. Actually, that could be its own
explanations.
separate thing.
And like this is why I think like he hasn't gotten around to it, or like this is for some of them at least. I feel like Aaron needs a excuse, a tie-in to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
All right,
but you
like with
don't.
everything he's done, he talked about how they make headgears. He had to use the sausage headgear as like a cue, essentially.
Well,
For
were
the
the other
sound
ones
design, they
really
used
prompted?
the machine. Um,
Oh,
well,
because
like
they had made
not like
something.
immediately prompted, but like yeah, like with the way he it is taking like something that is currently happening on the team, and then he like, and that's another thing, happening, not talking really, like something has to be physically coming from it before he's willing to write about it, which I feel like, I don't know, like I feel like if you are reading the below decks, you give more of a shit than needing a photo, right? Like I feel like I'm not in like weird for saying that, like we're not there to look at the the bucket hat, like the sausage hat. Like I just want to know what it's like behind the scenes, and I'm sure there is more to it than what he's portraying. Um,
Oh, there
and
absolutely
that
is.
mostly containing their thoughts on stuff, like the team's thoughts on things. Like holy fucking shit, would I just love it if it was, this is like the one of the only things, but he just like had a question, and then he went around and asked every single person in the office just that one question. I don't know what it would be, or I guess we'll go something like, "What do you?" Yeah, the cat, hanging the catnip. It'd be like, "What do you want from season 5?" And this is like in the hype to season 5,
Mm.
right? He, every single member of the Ghost Ship team, what do they want in season 5? I would fucking love. I don't know, I have to watch you read the just entire fucking transcript. Oh my Jesus Christ!
Should I read it? Should I start reading them in that Fortnite kid, that German kid's voice? I could do a little bit of that right now.
No, yeah, no, but like it's fucking, I don't know, yeah, and just write like, because it's like 42 people now. It'll be like, I don't know, 42 quotes. It would have their name and role above it, maybe a little fucking bio if they really feel like it, and it would kind of just you in, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
like,
maybe a
oh,
point
the
to
art
make.
directors, they really want like a biome for some fucking reason. The art directors are really, or like, yeah, artists really want to make a biome, like some shit like that, some introspective thing, like, so you have a better idea of the team and the thoughts and the different people around it, right? Like, I don't know, that's the stuff I was expecting from like below decks, and so far it's been the snippets of that, right? Like we have gotten to see behind the scenes and some of the ideas of some people involved, right? With the sound effect, we got the new sound guy, right?
Mhm.
The bucket hat, we got the artists involved in that. But like, I don't know, it'll take a fucking while to get around to everyone, I'd imagine, and some of them probably
Basically,
aren't people that would be of note in
the
that
plan
regard.
is for once they go into focused development on season 5, that there will be a lot of new types of posts, kind of things we haven't seen before or haven't seen for a very long time. And I think maybe a fair point I'd like to extract from this, something that's a bit more like makes a bit more objective sense, is that maybe this that could start earlier than that. Maybe we could see the types
Yeah,
of posts that they're planning on making for season 5 in Rotor maybe we could see them for the March update as well. What I'm saying, something like that. Basically, I feel like it should have, and it already has a little bit, but I think the expectation was possibly that there'd be more different kinds of communication that we're not really used to seeing, and it doesn't feel like much has changed. Even though I know the plan wasn't for it to change much yet, but I think maybe it should maybe it should have done.
Right now, they're just teasers with lore instead of just teasers.
Ghost ship lore, Ghost ship lore, though.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Yeah.
I will write your fucking lore, Ghost ship. I will be your lore writer. I'm 100% serious about this. I don't ever be more serious about anything. I will write whatever.
I mean, Harry, you know, you're not going to be unqualified soon. If you just you could maybe apply for it. I don't know.
I will write law. I will write. We will make a comic book for you.
Yeah. Point is not quite as good communication as we thought it was going to be, or at least it feels like it has gotten slightly worse.
Well, no,
like, you know, it's like one of those New Year's commitments that slows down a little bit once the hype kind of goes. Like, it feels like it's slowing down. Don't let it slip away. Like, make sure it wasn't just a New Year's resolution where you just decided to do it. But
it wasn't though, because we have to not let go of the fact that the plan was to start doing this at a certain point, and we haven't got to that point yet. But that does lead me to the potential criticism that maybe the plan should have been to start straight away, or start at the beginning of the year. Maybe not start as soon. Maybe not start in October last year, but maybe they should have started doing this by now instead of waiting till they start working on season 5 properly. That's what I'm saying. Because they're planning to do these things that we're saying, but maybe the plan should have. Maybe they should have started
literally
earlier.
to do that. Like, that's his whole job. He was hired specifically to be making these posts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It might have something to do with the fact that I feel like the maintenance updates are really heads down kind of work, though. There's also a bit of that going on, I think.
Maybe I assume so much is changing so quickly.
Yeah, I think the maintenance updates are really, they just put their heads down and just do something. That's what it always feels like, and I hope they do that again, because the result of that was actually just great. But frankly, we need to talk about certain things. We need to talk about. I think the stats thing, I mean, it's kind of a bit loosey goosey. Some of it's very trivial, but I think if we wanted to at least do one thing, there was an interesting point that you made before we started, but it kind of stopped us from talking about it, which is the fact that 2023 did have the most sales for the game, but it's also, I think it's also not a huge increase from the last year, but it sold 2.5 million in 2023 and about 2.3 million in 2022, which brings up to a total of 8 million copies sold. But also, there's been a decline in total amount of players in 2023, and we don't know what that's all about. But you mentioned it before we started, and I thought that was really interesting, because it's like the game is still going, in the sense of gaining like the respect of like the gaming industry, like socially, you know, like this social kind of respect it has, but the actual popularity and like pulse of the game is getting slower. Like, it's not as dynamic.
While the game has got the most sales it's ever had before, this is probably the smallest increase within a year, right?
Oh yeah, yes. No, not. I mean, also the fact it went down 1 year from 2018 to 2019, but whatever. It's kind of difficult because only 5 years to go off of. You know, it's not. There's not many.
It's only been out 5 years.
There's not many gaps. There's only 4 gaps there. You know, 4 intervals, or 5. You got 6 years actually. 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23. Yeah. Obviously, the biggest jump.
I thought you were going to tell me about what's the smallest jump.
The smallest jump would have been. Am I right about this? Yeah. yeah, technically going from 2020 to 2021 was a smaller jump of 205,000. Is the difference between the number of sales. 2022 to 2023, the difference is. Oh, no, I was wrong. No, it's a big. Oh no, yeah. No, I was right. More. A bigger increase. Obviously, the biggest increase was between 2021 and 2022, where it sold 1.3 million in 2021 and sold 2.3 million in 2022. That's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
So what it actually having more last year is not really more. It's more a case of consistency rather than it actually having an increase so much. It's only an increase of 200,000, which isn't much when you're already over 2 million. I should say. Obviously, it's still a lot of numbers, but it's not as much when you're already over the 2 million mark. Yeah. It's kind of just keeping it up, you know? It wasn't really... There's no real spike there to speak of.
Ultimately, games won't just die instantly, right? Like, to die, they need to stop growing. And even though, it sold 2.5 mil, right? So it's clearly not stopped growing. But also, it didn't shoot up again, right? It kind of... if things went well, it would have shot up again, right? Like, it implies that if last year was actually a good year for Deep Rock, it probably would have hit like 3 mil sales within a year, right? Like, imagine if they had, or at least like season 4 had the same reaction as season 3 did, right? That would have been fucking insane. But
I think a lot of it was the community continuing to do what it does, and also the fact that a lot of like content creators and people sharing the game were still just doing it in the same way that they had been before. But frankly, the game itself wasn't doing much good for itself last year. Deep Rock didn't do much for itself in 2023. All that was done for it, I would say, was mostly from external sources. Because frankly, like the maintenance update didn't grow the game. All the maintenance update did was actually make placate worries and improve the game for everyone who's invested in it already. Which is obviously a good thing. And that's it. It's obviously a good...
Yeah. But yeah, like ultimately it's then like even if the numbers staying as high as they are and going slightly higher, if that's a good thing, which it is a good thing, it is definitely not a bad thing. A bad thing would be the numbers go down. It does then beg the question, because we've seen the other stats, where are these players going? 2.5 million players new, and yet the player numbers are down.
Well, it does say, hold on, because I would say that the reason they've made this a stat, which is people who've played for more than 100 hours, is an important one, because I feel like 100 hours represents, no matter what the game is, 100 hours can, in some cases, can actually be too much, but no matter what the game is, 100 hours is pretty much worth any standard price of a game, up to $70 or pounds, right? And obviously Deep Rock's,
and it shows that
Deep Rock is at most £25. You know, it's very often on sale. It's on Game Pass and things like these, like things like that. And yet, even on Steam alone, over 800,000 people played for more than 100 hours. So that is a valuable. And the truth is, most players who buy a game don't play it, really. It's kind of a weird thing that most people do not play a game for more than 100 hours. Like, you know, terrible example, but Halo Infinite had like 20 million players at launch, right? And so many dropped off, and that is a normal thing. It's an extreme example, but you know, most people do not stick around. Games filter out how many. They just filter people out, and then you're left with how many. And I would say that 800,000 is a fairly definitive player base. You know, anyone who's played for more than 100 hours of a game is a part of your player base, I would say. And that was just on Steam in 2023. So I think that's a really fair. I think that's a decent amount, genuinely.
No, yeah, like
you're never going to retain 2.5 million people. You're just not.
Yeah, like,
doesn't happen unless you CS:GO.
but you can't deny that last year it did a better job. Not the last year, the year before that, it did a better job at retaining those 2 point something mil, right? Like, there were bigger numbers to the players actually playing, right? Like, all time peak was season 3 in like 2021. That's not true, is it? No, 2022. Like, it's, I don't know. Like, it's just that it's not that the game is dying per se, but it was growing at a sharp incline. It was growing at a sharp incline, and now that incline is like not that sharp, right? And it could very easily start going down, and that's the main concern. But that's what I would say that before the end of last year, before the maintenance patch. But at this point in time, I expect it to start picking up again this year. I see no reason why the spike won't start getting a little bit more vertical.
Yeah.
As the maintenance hits, it's going to turn up a little bit. But season 5, I expect it to hit an all-time player high. I do expect that to be the case. And if it doesn't, then that bodes phenomenally poorly. It means the game peaked in season 3, and if that's the case, then fuck. then season 3, really? That was the peak of Deep Rock? Fuck off. Like, so come on.
Well, I do think season 3 was like like not a catalyst, but like a real crossroad of all the right factors. I think it represents the peak of like content creators giving the game attention as well. A lot culminated around the time of season 3. Like, essentially that's where the goodwill of the community and of people who can give eyes to DRG. It was like a culmination of those two things being at their height, where it just had the most eyes on it. It just had the most eyes. It had the most positive attention being sent its way at that time, and it was a real culmination of things where, and it's the truth is that's what I'm saying there is that was not entirely on Ghost Ship, where that had a lot to do. Like I said, that's a lot to do with this aspect of content creators giving the game attention, building up to this point where suddenly it almost became a trend to make videos praising Deep Rock, and that was kind of the time of that, and I think that time is starting to pass as well. And frankly, I don't care if the game gets better. I don't give a shit if people stop praising it. If it gets better, I'm going to keep praising it. We should care in the sense of I hope that people praise it when it deserves it. But
I just really hope that season 3 isn't the all-time peak of the game. No. I really hope that isn't when the game's peaked. I don't think the game has peaked yet, but I think if it will, season 5 is going to be the time. Yeah. Season 5 has the hype of Rogue Core, even though it's arguably taking away, or there's a weird thing there. Like, season 5 is like, I don't know. I think it's going to be a fucking thing. Like obviously it's not going to be a year's worth of work or anything like that, but I think the content in it sounds like it's going to be good. It's going to be brand new, which bodes well. Obviously, that was like the only real positive of season 3 was that it wasn't Rivals. There's a lot of good flags for just players as a whole. But the fact that it's going to be hype for Rogue Core means I think it's going to, the news sources are going to be able to talk about it well, right? Like, I distinctly remember like getting news notifications from games sources or whatever they're fucking called before season 3 talking about Deep Rock, saying, hey, there's this new Rockbox infestation. You might want to try playing Deep Rock, something like that. And that's something they couldn't say during season 4. The fuck were they going to say during season 4? There was nothing to advertise there. Yeah. Right? But season 5, this is the season that is like hyping up the prelude to their new game. You want to check out season 5, and I think if it's good, then all the YouTubers are going to come back to play it. Like Zanny, I think he's probably the biggest one that's been playing it regularly.
I think we almost wanted to. It's like we want Deep Rock to peak when it deserves to peak. Not that it didn't, not that it's never deserved it, but I would say it so far it peaked. It's Deep Rock's what is Deep Rock's peak currently? That being season 3, is not Deep Rock's peak. That's what I'm saying. That wasn't the peak of DRG, and yet it was. And I want it to actually be the right way round. And that means that season 5 needs to be really good. You know, it needs to be better than season 3, which it will be. I think it's actually automatic, like genuinely. Like I know that season 3 was objectively wasn't bad in a vacuum as a content update. It added some pretty good stuff, just objectively speaking. But frankly, the fact that I'm going to bring it down to a 98% certainty that we're going to get a mission type or a biome, one of those things, plus some new overclocks, that alone is an automatic edge over season 3. Just so automatically. Like, even just 12 new overclocks, that's better than those new grenades. Straight up. And even a new mission type or a new biome is better than the FFH outbreak, you know? A warning hybrid mission that isn't really anything, you know. Season 5 is almost automatically better than season 3, and I hope that is reflected. I hope that is the case, so we don't eat our words, and I don't think we will. By the way, I don't think we will. I think it will be good.
All signs point to it going so fucking well, which is why I really hope the numbers reflect it, because I do think whether they want it or not, Deep Rock is going to vaguely downtrend from like roughly now on, right? Like them working on another game, ultimately, and Deep Rock's 5 years old now, right? Like games that have been around for ages, the only way they kind of stay consistent.
Well, it's going to be 6 years old soon.
Attention to. Yeah, exactly.
It's 5 years, 11 months old. It's fine.
Yeah, the only way games that old continue to get the attention and like adoration and like just generally like that of players and the gaming community at large is if it's still the most recent thing, right? Skyrim, fucking ancient, but still the most recent thing. GTA, ancient, most recent thing. Minecraft, ancient, most recent thing. Terraria, ignoring the second game because everyone does.
Well, Minecraft, most recent thing. Minecraft's a bit weird though, actually. Because they've had a lot of new games come out, actually.
Yeah,
but Minecraft,
but everyone just keeps ignoring them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
They die fucking instantly. And then there was other ones like Rainbow Six Siege, right? I think that's fucking old now, probably older than Deep Rock.
But it also comes from a refusal to move on as well, I think.
Exactly. But like it can work. Right? If that one game is enough and is sustainable, so what? The issue is that I think they kind of realized, or at least they don't really care. Deep Rock was actually not that sustainable. Like really long term.
It probably it kind of probably was though, and I think it wasn't sustainable for them. I think they were getting bored.
As adding stuff took longer, the players and probably them hated it. Right, or like didn't like it. Like as the game aged and the code got more difficult and there was so many layers and there's too much stuff, like them adding things probably took them longer than they liked, and them adding things definitely took longer than the community liked, and it just started to not go well, right? And so I think that's why I think Rocore is the right decision. Rocore should bode so fucking well, as long as that's also a good game, which I have faith in. Which is why I think that ultimately Deep Rock, its numbers are gonna half. like realistically, like I think Deep Rock and Rocore are gonna be pulling from the exact same pool of people, right? Like players that have put 100 hours into Deep Rock, I can see a vast majority of them also putting 100 hours into Rocore, or then having to put 50 hours in both. You know what I mean? Like I think like Rocore is going to be an extension of Deep Rock. Rocore's success is Deep Rock's success. They're tied. They're one and the same. They help Ghost Ship. They're all the same.
Well, that's
group. But
that's why I think Rocore will not take away from Deep Rock. I genuinely don't think it will. I think it's just going to be
no, but it has to though.
Does it?
Like,
what does it have
like,
to?
You can't play both at the same time, Harry. Right? You can't be playing a roll call game and be playing a Deep Rock mission at the same time. Right? One is going to have to take away to the other, and ultimately there are people that will like roll call more than Deep Rock. I very much assume that I will be one of those people.
Yeah, I think you probably will.
I genuinely believe that roll call is going to have a lot more features that I prefer, given they keep up with the cosmetic stuff. But that's actually been a bit unfair. But that's not the point. The point is that I don't know, like Deep Rock, Deep Rock doing worse won't matter, is what I'm saying. But I think it's still going to do worse. Right, I still think roll call is ultimately going to take away from the amount of players that play Deep Rock as much as they do, and it's going to be a new age of, do you want to play Deep Rock or do you want to play the game that they made after Deep Rock, which is just more polished from the ground up, right? It's probably going to be just a better game, and it's like, and I'm sure there'll still be tons of people playing Deep Rock. I'm sure we will still be playing Deep Rock and caring about both, probably equally still, right? But I don't think that changes the fact that numbers-wise, it will probably go down, which is why I really hope that they reach a peak in season 5 as like a kind of just from now on, there's no expectations to reach these higher numbers, right? Like, I don't expect it to ever peak again once Roll Call comes out. I just don't think it's going to happen.
That's actually an interesting thing where I want Deep Rock to peak like once more. That's it. I just want it to, and it's either season 5 or Roll Call's release or season 6. Any of those things. I don't need it to peak again after that. I just want to make sure it peaks again. I just want to make sure it beats season 3. That's what I want. Beat the season 3 allegations, and then it doesn't need to go. It doesn't need to beat that record again, though. It just needs to do it one more time. That's all I want.
We don't want season 3 to have the peak, but I think also a new peak shows that it recovered from last year, right? We want to see that it recovered, and player numbers probably would help in that, but peak numbers are just easy. Like, they've reached a higher peak number, therefore they've recovered. And I think, I think that season 5 is realistically the only season with a solid chance of beating that. And that's not including, I think Roll Call could probably beat the numbers. I think Roll Call could probably beat Deep Rock's numbers within the not too distant future. Like, ultimately, roguelikes are a more favorable genre of games than whatever Deep Rock's genre is. I don't know what they're called. Like, just co-op shooters, or like,
you mean horde shooter? You mean I guess horde shooter.
Like, horde shooters, they're popular, right? And they have some huge fucking like names in there, right? Like Left 4 Dead and that. But ultimately, they're quite niche, right? Roguelikes, they're fucking everywhere.
Well,
people hate
like,
roguelikes.
Horde shooters, like,
they're so popular.
Yeah. Horde shooters are like, there's a few like really popular ones. Roguelites and roguelikes are kind of just like a really popular genre overall. You know, there's loads of them, and they all get like a decent amount of attention. You know, like even the ones that I think are objectively the best, like Hades probably isn't much more popular than many others. It's just better than them all. It's just same with RoboQuest. It's obviously should be doing better. I think it's on its way to doing a lot better.
Because it's kind of a roguelike, it kind of blends in. Like, it's a new roguelike that you've got to kind of carve your niche through that, which it is doing a fairly good job of, right?
But
like, that's
how
the thing.
Many games
in that genre, there's so many other games.
How many games have had a roguelite or like spin-off? You know?
Exactly.
But it's already a very popular IP because it is. Deep Rock is a name. It is objectively a name that people recognize. People.
It is gonna fucking blow onto the scene, right? Like, when it comes out, like, that's, people are gonna fucking know about it.
Yeah,
it's just simply a fact that like the Ghost Ship games and the Deep Rock IP are fucking known, and if the game is as good as we all assume it's gonna be, and hopefully they have enough in early access for it to be playable, then I fully believe that it's gonna fucking blow up, and I do think it might take over Deep Rock, like the current Deep Rock game, in a while, once it actually has the content and time behind it. So in like 3-4 years maybe, but yeah, I expect it to beat Deep Rock's numbers at some point.
Yeah,
but right now I just hope that Deep Rock beats Deep Rock's numbers.
Yeah,
this year.
Yeah, I think basically what I think we need to do now is actually get onto these comments, so we've got them out of the way, and that's it. Because
Yeah.
we kind of need to do it. But speaking of things that people who aren't us have said, would you believe me if I said that there are genuinely people? Because sometimes I like to look at comments on the Steam posts, because I like to be reminded that we are a lot better than them. I don't know if you should tell me if you believe that someone can actually think this. There are genuinely people who say in these comment sections on these Steam posts, they call Ghost Ship greedy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that was the thing when, like, I don't know, when Season 4 came out, I think. like people in like the Reddit were calling them greedy. The fucking
Greedy,
Discord.
money hungry.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's when the roll
genuinely
was
funny.
announced.
I genuinely think that's funny.
That was one of the main things people shit on them for. They were like, "You're releasing a new game, you fucking greedy hacks! like you just want more money." Yeah,
yeah, but like they also clearly don't like money as much as they could, because otherwise they would actually monetize the shit out of the game,
money,
which they refuse to do.
Integrity.
Yeah, I just, and that's yeah. So I'm glad we haven't actually had any like genuine like criticism recently of people who think that we're like haters or something. Because to me,
I mean, compared to all those,
to me, we're so obviously not. Because in my opinion, it's so obvious that we just care a lot. And whatever. Basically, what we need to do though, and because I promised this since before the last episode, that we would actually get to what the people want from Deep Rock this year. And I've devised a system by which I can actually show these comments properly. And we're just going to go through them. There's not too many, which means we're actually going to, talk, Tyler, aren't we? Yeah. Currently on screen is just a black screen with a comment in the middle of it. And I'm not going to say exactly where these are from. Not per comment. These are from a post I made before the last podcast, the podcast itself, and another post. Starting with, and basically this is what you guys want from DRG in 2024. From Mr. Cheese 8097. Ghost Ship has repeatedly stated that they don't plan on doing this anytime soon, but man, crossplay between Steam and console would be great. All of my friends who have DRG play on Xbox, and I play on Steam, so I'm kind of screwed in that regard. I've seen many people on Reddit with similar stories too. I don't think they do it this year, but I hope that in the nearest future this will be implemented. So I'm going to show us again. That's the first point that he made. Basically, wants crossplay. Not going to happen. I think that's actually one of the other things that should be in that post, that hypothetical post we mentioned. I think that won't happen.
Yeah. Crossplay is so unlikely to happen, and even within that, if it ever did happen, it would actually bode more ill than good. Like when they add crossplay, don't expect another update.
Okay. You'll get crossplay when they're actually going to abandon the game. Which they're not.
That's the main thing, right? Crossplay is difficult enough, right? I think it's one of the most difficult things all developers like talk about, right?
Yeah.
And what makes it even harder for them, I think, when they talked about it, is that like, if they made crossplay, updates become so much harder to just put out, right? Like having to have an update come out at all things simultaneously, crossplay compatible, whatever that fucking like immense technical jumbo is required. It's just not happening. But I could imagine them still wanting to add crossplay, but I can see that being their parting gift, essentially. Like that, like as we leave this game forever, we will enable full, crossplay, like mods on console, something like that, right? That like from now on, the entire experience is available to everyone. Goodbye. like that kind of thing. Like if ever. With crossplay, I think that's the situation, right? Is that like, but right now they have no intentions of ending it, therefore have no intentions of adding crossplay
because they're not abandoning the game, and I can't believe that notion is still not common, but it is recurring. It's still a thing, and it's like you people need to be shot into the sun.
Harry, they're currently not working on the game. How are they not abandoning it? Oh my god! You get your dick off. Ghost Ship Games suck.
Get your dick off Ghost Ship Games. I'm trying to think of a good analogy for that. Aside from penises, I can't. But it's still whatever. Listen. It actually made me think of something, which is I think something we haven't given them enough credit for is actually when they put updates out on the console, because obviously it wasn't a complaint, but I tried to ask at one point if there's a difference between when it takes 1 week or 2 weeks. But the truth is, it never actually takes 2 weeks. They only say that because they know it's going to take at least 1 week. But they always put the updates out as soon as they can. Like, actually, you go to the last one, it came out 2 days before they said it would, because they could just do it.
Yeah.
They do that. They do just put them out on console as soon as they're allowed to. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I feel like I haven't really mentioned that before.
Their process the Xbox takes normally about a week and a bit.
Yeah,
that's about it, right? Which is the issue, which is one of the main issues with crossplay, right? It's then that the PC players are going to have to wait that amount of time, right? Then they can't release it to PC and then wait for consoles. That's just not how it works, right? Like, they would have to release it all at the same time. And as a PC player, right? He said he was a PC player. You would then have to wait another 2 weeks for your updates. It's somewhat to everyone else, but that's what you agreed to for quick play. Not to mention the amount of time and energy they would spend making quick play instead of anything else. Although it is valuable.
It is valuable, especially for a co-op game, co-op focused game. But frankly, it's not valuable enough right now.
In the kindest way as well. Like this individual Mr. Cheese, your way round is the most deal with the ball. As in, buy the Microsoft version, and then you can play with them on your PC, right?
And obviously we should make the caveat there being, obviously we can't really just say just spend money as an excuse, but it's also it's more reasonable for you to, even if you have to save up, it's more reasonable to say that than to ask Ghost Ship to make this commitment.
With the PC, you can spend the £20-something, probably on a deal as well. Maybe Game Pass on the PC. You might not have to spend anything if you already have Game Pass. You probably wouldn't though, because you'd have an Xbox.
Yeah, I hope we're not missing something here. But you said your other friends who play DLG play on Xbox. You can play with them if you use the mic. Yeah, you can, and you're a PC player, but you can use the Microsoft version and play with them. Unless we're missing something, a key thing in your statement, but yeah.
The other way around, and if they're not on Xbox, it becomes extraordinarily difficult, right?
Yeah.
Like PlayStation players, they're alone. They're in their own separate little bubble.
Because the fact is, though, remember, there is crossplay between PC and PC and Xbox. That is a thing because of the Microsoft version.
Yeah.
So there is already an element of crossplay, and I think they're satisfied enough with that.
But you wouldn't
for
have
now.
And I think that's something I've seen people ask for. Not this guy, obviously, but they want to transfer their stuff over, through those two accounts, which I feel like that should be fair. I don't see why they couldn't copy and paste the stats to one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you have a really good Steam profile, and then your Microsoft friends want to play on their Xbox, and you can play on the thingy, you should be able to essentially copy paste your account.
I think that as long as it is less complicated than actually making crossplay, then they should do that. As long as it is actually less complicated.
But it would have to be a fair bit less. In all fairness,
it'd have to be quite a bit less complicated. But I
think it wouldn't help PlayStation. It wouldn't help many other things. But it is a problem, but it's just a problem that solution would make so many more problems that it's kind of tough.
I wonder if I wonder how much better the game would have done or be doing if it did have crossplay though. As in, I literally wonder. I don't know if it would actually make much of a difference.
Yeah, I feel like people would. The game might be dead already because people were angry that updates take so long to make or some shit like that, right?
Yeah. And I think they really do. I think they thrive on the flexibility of basically not that they only focus on one platform, but they kind of do. You know, they kind of they develop on Steam really, and they kind of just the updates just go out to everyone else kind of automatically at a later date. And I think
Although I'm sure
when they only have to think about one
times.
specifically, it's a lot less complicated, I think. Whereas it actually becomes like they're developing, you know, it's going to be more like developing for more than one platform if they have crossplay. Whereas now they can kind of just develop for one platform, which is just Steam, and it kind of just works for everything else.
And we're already waiting a year for the next season, so
yeah.
like,
so just like
I'm not sure.
It's a reasonable thing to wish was a thing.
Yeah,
no, maybe not to request, more so to wish was a thing.
yeah, but like they could give you a very reasonable response, and I think we summarized what they would say.
I hope
if
so.
You can also go ask them.
You can ask them, but obviously Mr. Cheese had more to say than that. Besides that, maybe some buffs to the Zukovs, as they're the only weapons I've tried that don't feel too good to use. And actually, I'm going to go into the next point immediately. Also, I hope that new overclocks are given to the Zukovs and the Warthog. They only have 5 overclocks each compared to the other weapons 6 to 7, and that's pretty weird. So there you go. I personally really do think that in terms of the balancing side of things, I think this is something that I think the maintenance update should almost get out of the way, is buffing the Zukovs, giving both the Zukovs and the Warthog their 6th overclock, in preparation for Season 5. And this is obviously just someone echoing just the Zukov thing, because I've been using them a bit recently, actually, with gas recycling, and it's been pretty okay, but I don't know, the Zukovs are a weapon that actually kind of lack punch, actually. They kind of feel weak. And they might be weak. I think they probably are. I think that's why people want them to be buffed, but I think they feel weak as well, you know? Like, the M1000, I don't like it, but it doesn't feel weak. You know, there's a powerful feeling weapon, especially with the charge shots and the amazing fucking reload sound effects and all that kind of stuff. I think the Zukovs kind of need a facelift in general, you know? In a lot more. They have a really nice reload animation, though. I'll give them that. Spinning the 2 weapons. Pretty cool.
One of the I feel like the Zukovs, they have something that they don't use like at all. They're a dual wield weapon, and that doesn't come up at all.
Well, that's why if they're going to do anything with that, they would need to like really. That would be a real proper rework.
Yeah, like
if you're suggesting what I think you're suggesting, but I'm with you.
Yeah,
actually
like
separating them, like genuinely.
Pretty much. Yeah, where you would press like X and it would go left gun only, X again, like right gun only, and then X again at both guns, like something like that. And you could have like you each do individual stuff or some bullshit, basically. That would be the best case scenario for the Zukovs, but it might be more realistic that they just have to try and change how they are currently. Well, like they just improve how they currently are, and then make some new weapons in the future that are more like that. Dualies with actual different uses, right? Like maybe dual deeks or something like that, right? Like
what he said was dual wield Desert Eagles.
Yeah,
not dual deeks, not dual deeks. Who would that be for, though?
Gunner.
What slot?
Secondary.
Yeah, probably. Not anything else.
Read the next comment.
Yeah. Well, hold on. I got so many Word documents open. This from my favorite person, Foreign 4406. For the March maintenance update, there are many overclocks that sit unused in my collection. Love what they did for the Hurricane with Rocket Barrage, and similarly for the Boomstick with Double Barrel. More of that, please. Now that's a bit of an awkward one, because of what we said earlier, where we almost don't want that. Almost.
You could say that if you don't get the point we were trying to make. we were making the point that we don't want them to remove overclocks to replace them with new ones. We just want to keep both of them.
Yeah.
He's just asking for new overclocks, which like already, like he's just thinking about it. He's like, I got two cool new overclocks. Hell yeah, I'm going to use these. And to that, I say fair enough. The double barrel one is very fun, and the other one sucks balls. And I think most people think that as well. But if you enjoy it, hell yeah, power to you, mate.
Yeah.
Like it's yeah, it's not an unfair thing. I mean, he's asking for more overclocks, right? He is asking for the thing that we like most people are still asking for. Which, in all fairness, I think they kind of messed up in the maintenance update. So hopefully they do a better job. Because let's not lie, roll control was a worse product than the double barrel or the
Yeah.
the rocket one. Like, and I hope that isn't a sign that
roll
they actually have misread.
Yeah, roll control should have been a new. What they did, roll control should have been actually a new overclock that was used this the guidance idea. Like that, it shouldn't have been a roll control rework at all. It should have been a brand new overclock, basically. But it wasn't, and that obviously it would. I admit that would have been awkward because that would have just out of nowhere brought the breach cutter up to 8 overclocks. I can imagine that being kind of awkward, but it wouldn't have been that awkward if the Hurricane had 8 as well, like it should have already, like instead of having one replaced. So that's your fault, Ghost Ship. Obviously,
and obviously, one of those 8 is still the overclocks that people regard as so useless that Ghost Ship are willing to remove it. But ultimately, they were never useless. Most people just didn't like the use, and Ghost Ship seems to agree with that. But still, I think they should have. They still deserve to be there. Like,
yeah.
But it's kind of too late now, I imagine.
The kind of ones you can replace is things like the stubbies cleans, by the way. But don't.
Yeah.
Still add more. Still add new ones instead.
Like, I don't know. Whatever they do that there isn't already a more interesting version of, do that. Like, isn't it like max size is like one of the clean ones, and there's no bigger, better one of that in the Zukos, right?
Yeah. Oh, you mean the overclocks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like I only remember one of them. There's a clean mag, but there's no like balanced or unstable magazine, is there?
No, the clean one is fire rate and reload speed. The balanced one is increased magazine size for reduced fire rate, which is kind of weird.
So the opposite then. Basically, do a heavy burst one. So it's like the clean one, but even quicker and more fun. So do that, but don't remove the clean one. Just add a new one. But yeah,
you're a very smart man. You're very smart.
Thank you. Add more things equals better.
Yeah. But Foreign had a point about season 5. He wants a new mission type. We got Industrial Sabotage with a season update, so I'm hoping we get another, especially considering the weight. Although I would have to say to you, Foreign, unfortunately, don't consider the weight. Push it out of your brain. Pretend it isn't a weight, because otherwise you're just going to be disappointed. Even though
I think he's referring to the weight since the last
mission type.
Yeah. That's how I read it.
Well, I think it actually has a lot to do with not just the weight since the last mission type, but, and forgive me, Ghost Ship, for saying this, the weight since the last mission type that isn't Industrial Sabotage.
Yeah.
What I actually mean, the weight since On-Site with Tyler, it will have been, it will have been 4 years, roughly.
Yeah.
Since On-Site Refining. And that's what I'm talking about.
That's ignoring the one that they did do. But with biomes, you don't even have to ignore anything, and it's going to be 4 years still. No, I guess 3 in a bit.
Well, depends on when we get a new biome.
Which is looking like it's going to be next season, which is looking like next year. So, I mean, the biome's going to be something we crave. But until then, I think we're they think we are getting a game mode.
Yeah, but we sort of talked about. I think we've talked about how the biome selection is like it's more stable than the mission type selection. It's something we've talked about before, where one is kind of hurting a bit more. One could do with a genuinely positive addition, whereas the other doesn't actually need that, objectively speaking, and that's biomes. The biomes are kind of just in a good place. The only thing biomes need is actually some tweaks, but mission types, the ones that aren't as popular, are much harder to correct. So it would be much more beneficial to have a new, universally beloved, a new, mostly well received one to like reduce the chances of getting the ones that people don't like. That's what I'm saying. Whereas biomes
but I think within that,
pretty good.
Within that, I don't want them releasing a new game mode and pretending that it makes the last two better. So I hope that they release this new game mode, celebrate that they did something right, and then oh Jesus, and then ultimately after that, because it will still be it'll be like another 4 years until we get another game mode or some bullshit, right? Within that time, make Industrial Sabotage and Escort Duty and maybe the mini meal one fun.
No, okay, hold on. No, because I'm going to not stop you there. But Salvage Op is good, and it's such a simple change. Genuinely, you literally, and I'm not kidding, by the way. In that, it's literally just this. Just make the fuel cell part a rock cracker. That's what you need to do. That's it. The only problem with Salvage Op is that you do two of the same thing in a row as the final stage of the mission. Instead of taking advantage of what's been done since then, is making a number of different types of holding your ground type objectives.
Have we ever, that critique you just used? That's the beginning of Industrial Sabotage.
Yeah, it is, and we've pointed that out loads of times. One of the hacking stations should be a different activity.
I know that they sucked, but I never thought that the main problem with mules is the main thing in fucking Industrial Sabotage.
Yeah, I think Salvage Op's like a really nice. Salvage Op's like a really nice mission type that sort of builds up to being really intense right at the end, but sometimes it gets too intense in a way that's very unfair. And I think the problem with that is that the second part, the fuel cell, is much harder than the uplink. It's still a zone-oriented thing, whereas it should be like a repair-based thing instead. Especially because it's like the zone doesn't make sense. It's a fuel cell that's pumping fuel directly into the drop pod. Like we have that now. Like you do actually connect them via an actual wire, so it shouldn't be based on being near it anymore. It should be something else. I think that's all that needs to be done to Salvage Op, because I think it's actually a really nice mission type aside from that.
But ultimately, that is something that needs to be done. Still, right? You still think something needs to be done with Salvage Up, which was my point. They need to, at some point, either a maintenance update or as the special side part of a season, just try and make the less fun, notably less fun, or at least in their opinion, less fun game modes. Not that. And I think they know that Industrial Sabotage is kind of bad. I think they know that Escort Duty is kind of bad. I think they were willing to concede that bit is probably could do with a change.
Industrial Sabotage is the kind of one though where they just need to bite the bullet on it and actually make shorter versions of it. What I mean by that is one where there's only one power station and one that is just the caretaker. And I'm not kidding. That should be the case.
No,
Mine Expedition it's unrealistic to compare, but Mine Expedition has so many different versions, and the shortest Mine Expedition and the longest Mine Expedition are ridiculously different. They're so
different missions.
Yeah, entirely.
Really
I consider 400 Morkite and 200 Morkite basically different mission types, because a 400 Morkite mission can be longer than a full-length Industrial Sabotage, easily.
Yeah.
In fact, it usually is. Those missions are usually like an hour and 20, genuinely, or 15 minutes to an hour 20. Whereas Industrial Sabotage, they usually just sit around 50 to an hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, maybe not just the caretaker thing, but definitely just knocking out one of the power stations. That should have been what they should have done already, and that is yeah. They said it breaks the flow of the mission, but the problem is it's such a strict and rigid flow of the mission that makes it boring and tedious. Is that it's the same flow every time.
I think the main thing that I would I have my solution, which I've said before and I will say again.
Yeah.
But I think the main difference between the hour-long industrial sabotage versus the hour-long Morkite mission. The Morkite mission is an actual fucking expedition, right? There is a beginning, there is an end. With that length of time, some things happened in the middle there. It is a fucking adventure, right?
They
It is
really
a
are. They
RPG
are.
dungeon. It is so fucking cool going from beginning to end, setting all your
And
stats
yet,
back up because they will in that
and
time.
industrial
And yet,
sabotage is like pretty much just as long, and yet you know exactly what it's going to be. And
it's 3 rooms, not including spawn, and I really don't include spawn because it doesn't count for shit. It's the big room that mostly always looks the same, has the caretaker in the middle of it, and then you've got these 2 other rooms which might have an event in it, but they'll just have that
Yeah.
thing you do, which sucks.
it's like just as long, but it's like 20 times more claustrophobic. It's like,
Yeah, like it is. It's just sitting in the same place for like 3 separate times, and one of them's a big boss fight, which is why I mean my solution is the 2 things are optional and they make the boss fight easier.
yeah.
That's
a really
my
good.
thing.
That's a really good idea for like an actual overhaul of industrial sabotage.
Yeah.
Um,
Where if you want, your flow is you go in and you fight the caretaker instantly, but fucking hell, is that going to be hard? Like that's my thing.
And
Like,
doing
you
that,
can
they
take the
wouldn't have
batteries
to
out
make
immediately.
they wouldn't have to make like new like variants of the mission for that. That's just reworking how both the longer and shorter version work. It would just do the same thing. You wouldn't have to make the shorter version that has one less power station. You know, the current 2 variations would be perfectly fine. But now it's like, yeah, that's great. But we need to keep going.
Yeah.
I think that's genuinely great. I think we could. I would like to, because I think it's been a while since we've actually done like just a genuine, like miscellaneous topic focused thing. So I want to see, maybe we could do it next time, depending on where we're at. It's like literally just just fucking shitting all over those mission types, trying to fix them. Because I think we could do it once we get into it. Like it almost sounds like, oh god, but no, once we start going, it would work. Like we could do that like for a whole episode. Genuinely. But we need to move on. So we got Kodamon 1352, and I'm gonna try and like so basically I guess it's like what they're excited for, I think is what it actually is. It's like seeing how the new DRG season, how season 5 will play off of the events in Rogue Core or vice versa. That's essentially the point. And I agree, especially because I know they're not really going to change their principles on not having like a hard story. So I am genuinely interested in like the relationship between the content. Essentially, what season 5's theme will be is something I am genuinely interested to see.
What we know about like Rogue Core is that like they dug deeper than they ever did before, found Expedite, right? And then all of a sudden, at some point in time, like a fucking pulse just ended it all, right? And then now the events of Rogue Core is you go and reclaim everything that was lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing we know, right? And
but it's like, is season 5 literally going to be like chronologically?
Is it going to
prior to? It's like, is it literally
the discovery of?
Yeah, is that, are we literally going to be playing through those events?
Yeah.
Because that would be kind of weird to sort of frame it around like a story in that way, but that might be what they're doing.
Because then, like, however long Deep Rock lasts, the Rogue Core is going to be set like in the future after. Like, as far as Deep Rock lasts, like that is just the establishment of that. And then Rogue Core shows like in the distant future, not so distant future, where it all fucking goes haywire and they get sent in. Or could it be that
Speaking haywire,
I don't know.
the popos.
Yeah. No, it's probably my ambulance leaving their hospital. Or it could be not that. Essentially, I think we're pretty sold on that idea. I feel like that we get sent down into whatever this new thing is. Although it looks like we're not getting any biomes, so don't know. Yeah, maybe our dwarves are the
Tyler,
ones
I mean, let's be honest.
They don't send our dwarves down there.
Let's be honest. The new mission type is gonna just be like, it's just gonna be arbitrary. Well, it doesn't have to be arbitrary. They can actually do it properly. I think it'd be really cool if it actually has some kind of not different versions, but I think they could do this for the new mission type. In that it's sort of like it does have a bit of an effect on how the caves look, because you are like wherever you're going, you are deeper than before, and they could have some kind of thing because new mission types does entail new cave shapes, and I think they could do it through that, where there's some kind of maybe it's like very thin like veins of Expedite running through this like all the terrain could be a difference in those in that new mission type that shows that you are because it's going to be to do with Expedite, right? Like if we're getting a new mission type, we're going to be collecting or harvesting Expedite, obviously in a different way, but to like just mining out the walls, but still it's going to be about that. I'm like 90% sure.
We don't quite know that, do we?
No, I mean I'm open to it being something else. Obviously,
I mean, I feel like it might be as simple as collecting stuff on walls like it used to be, but they might do the new thing that they really like doing is that you have to summon some special tool to get it out of the ground, right?
Yeah, it might be that thing that we saw in that sound effects thing.
I mean, if we summon
because what that is, like genuinely, like what that could be, because it's like what that was like this weird machine, and it like sends this thing down, right? It went down, and we could be setting up like machines that we're just at the normal levels we're normally at, but we're sending these machines really far down. Like they're the one things that are going down.
I guess we're just there to make probes.
That is me trying to fit in something that we've seen into this idea, but I think it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you're setting up these installations that send like a mining like drill like really far down and then brings up the Expedite. Maybe sometimes it brings up things you don't want it to bring up.
Like bringing up the Expedite yet. Maybe it is literally just like Deep Rock's first probes down into the dark. Like maybe it's the results of your work that allows them to discover Expedite essentially.
Yeah. Maybe it's like like seismic. Part of the mission could be like seismic mapping to find like the weakest points or something where you would send something down.
Yeah.
Because they're not actually going to send us down there just yet. And like that actual story part could be in between season 5 and Rogue Core. Not really.
I just had a brief idea, which I fucking loved, but won't happen. But like the mission, like it actually is downwards facing, right? Like normally it's like across. Like this is like this like. You put this thing down and it will like the scarab bombs. I know the scarab bombs, but you do that and it would just like dig straight down, like it just explode this like hole straight down. You would like jump down it or something, or like grapple down it with some equipment.
Well, okay, so it could still be like a proper mission type, except you get between the caves through vertical.
Way more interestingly. Basically. Yeah. Like once you go down there, it's as simple as like mining stuff still, but like getting through could be really more interesting. But even then, that sounds more than I feel like we're looking for in a mission. It sounds interesting, and I would love it
because that's basically just a deep dive. Because that's like a deep dive in one mission. It's like a deep, you go down and then do like some objectives on each level essentially. But that would be a really cool thing to experience in real time.
But then as you get lower down, it gets more like depthy.
I think you are actually onto something in terms of what's the best way to actually distinguish it from Mine Expedition, where it could be like really similar to Mine Expedition or Egg Hunt, but the biggest difference is the way that you move between parts of the cave. And if there's actually like a vertical element there, that could be genuinely fascinating. That's something that you could still have very simple gameplay, but you still have this element that really makes it stand out. Although that's not particularly relevant to what Coleman asked, but I think we're going to move on nevertheless. This is a bit of a weird one, as it gets into something that hasn't really been mentioned by them particularly recently. From Cataclysm, who is a very frequent commenter. I'd definitely be upset if promotions past Legendary 3 weren't retroactively counted. I think this is in the vein of like a hypothetical idea of getting infinite promotions. I can't actually tell any promotion I have for each class, but it's got to be at least 5 each, probably more than 10 on Engineer. Well, don't worry, because okay, how do we... Tyler, I kind of have to ask you this. How do we know that they're counting them?
What? I thought you knew. Because the amount keeps going up.
Oh, well, yeah. It's literally just like that. They obviously know, or at least the game knows, how many promotions that you have. It's just obvious. The game sort of figures it out, basically.
It's like every time you level up, we add a certain amount of so and so to the total you need to get. Like you need to get like 10 more Ebonite than last time, and they keep doing that. So therefore, they must know how many more Ebonites you've needed.
Ebonite? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, I couldn't think of the mineral, so I made ebonite. But yeah, you get what I mean. Like, they're keeping quasi track of it.
So I guess there's a debate then if they do add infinite promotions, how important is it that they do like retroactively give you them?
I would say don't add more promotions if you can't give those people how many promotions they had then.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't add retroactive promotions, don't fucking do it. Because you would be fucking over only the most hardcore veteran players. That's literally it. You would be actively devaluing the experience and like the level of achievement those players have by making that change. It would piss off only your most passionate fans. So just don't fucking do it if you can't do it properly.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I think I'm sure you knew this already that is a mod. This exists as a mod, right? The number next to your icon tells you how many promotions you've done since Legendary
Mod's
3.
already doing it.
Yeah, but
which is not an excuse for them.
No, it's not. No. It's actually a makes it more likely because of the things like the drills and Glometer. If they see something that they think makes sense, then they'll almost add it verbatim. Not literally take the work that the modder did and add it to the game, but they'll basically just do the same thing. And I just hope that they understand that it's like it makes it's something that makes sense. It's something that someone made because there's a very good reason for it to exist. But that is something that I really, really don't want to talk about because I don't want to talk about it in case it doesn't happen.
Simple. And like it's just you want your promotions to always be reflected, right? Every promotion you have should be visible to other players. That's just kind of a thing that should be the case, and it's kind of sad that it just hasn't been. Like I would say it's an oversight. Like it's not right that it is not addressed at all by the game, as replayable as it is.
Yeah.
But yeah. Next comment.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. From Bismack6796, we need another boss fight similar to the Industrial Sabotage, but where you instead have to kill the Queen of the Glyphids, because when dwarves kill Glyphids, sometimes they say, "Die like your mother did." Okay, so we'll start with that. So
I still don't see that. I always just assume that by "die like your mother did," he's just assuming that some other Glyphid he killed at some other point was his mother. That's always how I read that.
I'm not with you on that point. I think that's wrong. I think they did kill a Glyphid queen at one point. I definitely, but as in, I kind of think it's a thing of the past, and I think in terms of like Deep Rock as a company facing bigger threats that come from Hoxie's itself is something that we're going to be seeing soon, and it's going to not be in the form of a Glyphid queen. It's going to be in the form of Hoxie's itself. I think the Queen is literally a thing of the past, and it's something that could happen again. But I think it's going to be
keep killing the dreadnoughts.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a while though till we see that idea fleshed out, or if ever, because I don't think they have to do it. Personally, I don't think they're obligated to make that a reality because they never. The words Glyphid Queen are never mentioned. It's a very, very loose implication. Based on that line, but also based on expectations of biology as well, based on what we see in the Glyphids that we don't even know, and also obviously the implication of the implication of the dreadnoughts that they are, we're stopping them from
not.
That's a really old line, obviously. Stop them before they turn into something worse. I mean that is something that's been, but it's not like something they're setting up. It's just like something that's there that they could tap into if they wanted to. And I would love them to do it, but I don't think it should be in the form of an Industrial Sabotage-esque fight. I don't know what it would be. My personal wish would be that it would be a new version of Elimination, where it's like only one, but it's actually the longest version of the mission somehow. I don't know, something like that. But that's not what they're thinking about right now. unless the Glyphy Queen is in Rotor, and it's like the final boss or something. I don't know. But apart from that, don't hold out hope
I
for
didn't
that.
think about that.
Yeah. What kind of boss fights will
We need to
Rotor
think
entail?
about Rotor more at some point. Probably a while ago.
Maybe when they actually, maybe when we know something about it. Maybe.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so there is more to this guy's comment. It's quite a lot. I think I'll just say it. Also, what do you think about them creating some kind of an open world instance similar to like Warframe open world, like whatever he says there, where you do kind of like a bounty system with the habitants and trade, and they could be like other dwarves, elves, maybe even some robots as well. And I'm going to ignore the next part, but we're just going to have to tackle that. That is something that is a cool idea, but I don't see things like that being added to Deep Rock now. You know, that's the
that's the thing. That's the brilliant fucking thing is I don't think he was saying that anymore. People aren't saying that anymore. Like people aren't saying, why aren't they adding this new whole different fucking game to Deep Rock? What's going on, Ghost Ship? Get your shit together. People aren't saying that anymore. People are now just saying, you know, they've branched out to a different fucking genre of game. What's stopping them from branching out and making a new game in a different genre? I think open world is fairly unlikely. They clearly Ghost Ship the team like I don't know what you'd call them, but the like procedural generated first of all, and like small chunks of game, like the I don't know what you call it, but like each like if roguelikes and roguecore then and Deep Rock use it, they are only going to be self-contained small little terrain balls of generation, right? They seem to be pretty fond of the smaller chunk type of like levels. Not so much a expansive open world. They've shown no signs of being able to do that or wanting to do that. It's probably one of the least likely genres they will make.
Yeah.
They being Ghost Ship doesn't mean that one day a publishing like company, like you know what they did with the wizard type, or no, the dragon demon vampire hunter style
Vampire
games.
Survivor.
Survivor, that's the one. Vampire Survivor, which also once again is that same kind of thing, general like just a small chunk rooms focused like they like mission rotating smaller experiences rather than a expansive open world. It seems to be that's the case. Doesn't mean they won't. Or it doesn't mean it can't be done.
I still want more characters, frankly, because it's kind of something the guy mentioned is other characters, and I know like it's so unlikely that DRG is going to get new characters, especially ones with voice lines. But still, I personally, Roadcore's a really good opportunity for them to actually have like new like NPCs, because Deep Rock doesn't have NPCs. Obviously it does.
Yeah.
In the form of certain, but there's no other characters that you can see, and I personally don't think like it's a good thing,
right?
Yeah.
Like there's gonna be a merchant in Roadcore. Like there kind of has to be. Who is going to be the merchant? Is it going to be Lloyd? I could see it being Lloyd, but I also think that beers should be their own thing within the respective universe of Roadcore. And I think Lloyd would be doing that. Which is then, you know, it's like, should they recycle? Probably some, yeah. I think there should be some recycling, but also there should be a new merchant. And I doubt he'll be humanoid, knowing Ghost Ship.
Well, that's the thing. They've never done any character like that who's like you can see them in the game world and they are like a dwarf or a human or something like that. But I don't think that is something that they are benefiting.
They could change that.
I don't think they can change it, but I don't think DRG itself is benefiting from them neglecting that. I still want to see like new characters, like even if they're just like a bounty system, it'd be really cool. Whether it's like different characters giving you jobs. This could just be an assignment thing. Like for example, just getting an assignment from. You don't even have to put a face to it, but getting an assignment from outside DRG, like a Scale Brigade assignment, and it's like from like they come up with a name for the leader of the Scale Brigade. It's like from them, and that's it. They don't even need to see their face. It's like a specific task.
Roadcore, right?
Either. Um,
They would have different type of side missions depending on it. Like I could imagine Scale Brigade, like whoever the fucking head of that is, would be like, kill 100 of these motherfuckers and we'll give you money, right? That sounds like Scale Brigade to me.
yeah, and
Like they would be like,
there'd be like something
kill
like
these.
Megacorp, if they are a thing, which I think they are. I think that's the idea. Is that Megacorp is like this
Megacorp would
company?
be, like,
They would like request you to like
right?
They would request you to like send them get extra Expedite beyond like the quota to give to them, and they'll give you like
Yeah.
a bonus or something like that.
Or like retrieve tech so they can like repurpose it or some shit like that. Like, or maybe the R&D would be its own division, right? They would be like, retrieve some of this lost tech so we can repurpose it, find out what broke it, and so we can
Yeah,
patch
R&D
that.
would be an
Stuff like
amazing one to give you like extra
like
tasks. Yeah,
different factions, and then obviously they could just say those factions, or they could put a face to those factions. And I think a lot of people,
even if it's
would
just
like
mission
that.
control
Like,
style, like
yeah. And in fact, just do it mission control style, really. Like, but just give a face to all of these different things. Like R&D, realistically, you could just make it engineer, right? But if it's like a unique engineer, like a named engineer,
well,
then that would work.
the guy
right?
contacting you from R&D should be another dwarf, like the guy who's representing them. You know, it's more than one, but he should be
Yeah,
a
I think
dwarf
R&D should be
engineer.
dwarves. Yeah. But then I don't know, like, and obviously, fucking Scale Brigade would be dwarves as well. But you know,
And Megacorp would be some like sleazy like businessman,
human
you know,
probably. Yeah, like a greaseball guy.
but not like a fat
And then I
guy,
don't know,
not mission control.
and you could get like, if you really wanted to, if Ghost Ship really wanted to push the boat and like stir a lot of shit with Rogue Core, there would be an elf
Yeah.
faction,
And
right?
also, I think the
And
Reclaimers should have their own, not their own mission control necessarily, but kind of.
it would be their own like their human resources, right? They're the person that's like their own rights, like reclaimer who would reclaim their bodies essentially, like past reclaimer bodies, or like any sentimental stuff, maybe someone like that. Not that they're a sentimental type, I guess. Maybe like dog tags of previous reclaimers, something along those lines. I think that would be a really cool thing, which we wouldn't see when the game comes out. That's the thing with Rogue Core. That probably is that's not going to be a thing in the beginning of Rogue Core, but it is by no means off the table in the first couple years of it coming out. And I'm lightheaded. Holy fuck! I don't think I should be talking this much while being ill.
Fine.
So
we've got one more. It's a very simple one. It's from Literate Max, who wants Caustic Maya.
So do I.
That's it. Not going to happen. And I'll tell you why. Because
it's gonna happen.
No, it's not. And I'll tell you why. Because it's ideas that get into development and are cut after they've been worked on already don't happen, because it's probably just more work to actually make Caustic Maya into a good idea rather than just come up with new ideas.
It's not Caustic Maya's fault that the Hollow Bow was such a fire idea. Okay,
I was thinking about this when I looked at the comments before, like last night. I actually put together the PowerPoint that you're seeing for the comments. I thought about how genuinely, like, because I don't think about it enough, how like there is actually just genuinely a lot of cool ideas in Deep Rock, obviously. But then I thought about how genuinely amazing Hollow Bow is as just a concept. It's so genuinely sick. It's actually kind of, I don't give it enough credit, and I think we already have. That's the thing. We've probably definitely talked about before, because it's one of the best biomes. But it's genuinely such a fucking cool idea. That it's a cave system made out of a tree, and it's like being invaded by like this red parasite, but it's not like an infection. It's like vines. It's still foliage. It's still like very plant based. And it's such a cool fucking idea and such a cool looking and feeling biome. And that's that. I like Hollow Bow. That's what I'm saying. It's really cool, and I want to see more ideas that are as unique as that. To be honest, if possible, like the inside of a giant like creature, for example. You know, that's like the other one that people want to see. But yeah, which is why Caustic Maya, I think it's kind of struggling, because it's kind of just another
stomach acid.
Well, yeah. Caustic Maya
work.
as it is wouldn't come back, because I don't think it is unique enough.
It needs to be.
You know, it's just another cave type. It's just another It's just another
At this
salt pits
point-
type thing. It's just another fungus bogs type thing. You know, they need more pizzazz than that for a new biome. You know,
It needs to have like another element, like the
Yeah.
Azure world. I mean, that was I wouldn't say the Azure world had another element. It was just that it's what it is so strong. Like,
yeah, the Azure world. I
luminous,
think it's like a magical forest type concept.
yeah,
Neon
neon
mixed underwater,
magical forest.
mixed with being like an
Like,
underwater
yeah.
vibes. Like it's yeah.
Like, it was such a strong one. But then, yeah, the tree had the strong tree biome mixed with the red infected thorn like parasite thing. Like that was like it was like of course that was gonna win, right?
Yeah, I do think it's genuinely like the
like-
strongest concept for a biome in the game.
Yeah.
There's some other pretty
but
good, like
yeah.
Rad Zone's pretty good, but yeah, like seriously, they got it. Biome ideas need to be pretty good from now on as well. Which is why that's the thing. I think they are probably quite not prejudiced, but they probably need a really good idea for a new biome to make it. You know, I think they're probably quite strict on what would become a biome. You know, they wouldn't just let anything through and to be like, oh yeah, this sounds good enough. I don't think there's any good enough. I think a biome idea needs to be really good for them to run with it. So that's another reason.
Probably why biome's not added and why game mode is.
Which is
like,
why it's an exciting idea,
Biome
because
didn't get cut.
not only would they need it to be a really good idea, it's also something that they're just fucking good at doing. So I just really want a new biome. So I just really want...
Yeah. Which is why it's sad that we're getting a game mode, but also game mode's not the worst thing in the world to lose a biome to. Like, it's still fair.
Better than a fucking warning.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as we don't get any more warnings
Or,
for like
or
another couple of
jetty
years.
boots.
Yeah. Well, once again, more stuff in that system wouldn't go amiss. More stuff in a lot of systems they had in Season 3. Like, Season 3 had a lot of cool prospects. Like, more arcade machines would be nice, right?
Season
like
4.
in the arcade area. Yeah, Season 4. Yeah. Like, more arcade machines would be cool. More beers would be cool. More whatever those power-ups are would be cool. But ultimately, that's just kind of the idea. Like, Season 4 added a lot of cool prospects, but didn't really elaborate on them. That's not the point. I'm actually dying, I think. So I think we need to wrap this up quick, because Mum's also home and she'll be noisy because she is noisy.
We are done here. So, as always, if you enjoyed this episode of Bad Vision Podcast, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to stay on top of everything to do Deep Rock and Road Core,
like and subscribe as well.
no, click the notification bell. And if you want us to, if you want to see us drink this
live, come to Melbourne. No, I don't know.
It's actually the wrong way round. Hold on, it's mirrored. Hold on. Now it's the right way round.
No, Harry, it mirrors it again when it shows it.
Does it?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I'm mirrored to you right now, but I'm not mirrored, am I? Like, you can read the words on my chest, but it's mirrored to me.
So you can read this?
Yeah, Red Rock.
They can't. Because
No,
Tyler,
does it?
it's not going to flip it once I stop recording, is it? It's recording the
Right.
screen, Tyler. It's recording the screen.
Ah,
It's not.
I see now.
Yeah, whatever. All right, we already did the outro, so we can just end this now.
Right, bye.
God, I need the toilet.